Oh, there you
Hey.
Hey.
How are things? I'm good. How are things? Good. Horland.
Yeah, I remember you from the last one.
How's everything going?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Thanks for coming down and doing this.
Oh, no,
Appreciate it.
Anytime. It's on the way home.
Where do you live?
Santa Cruz.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
You got sort of a gnarly commute.
It's not too bad. I actually live in Ben Lomond, which is like one of the smaller villages or towns, one of the smaller towns.
Yeah. Scott, who you just saw coming in, actually lives in Scotts Valley.
Oh, okay. That's where I lived for a long time, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, cool.
2 years ago.
Awesome. I flipped you the invite for the hangout, so
Okay, cool.
We can pass you off the presentation mode for the doc and our presentation deck and everything else. And then I've got a USB speaker in case, depending on how the audio goes, we can flip that over to you, or we can do it offline or whatever. Is that actually picking up? Let's see if it's actually. Yeah, mine's got power, so. Mine's claiming it has juice, so
It's probably.
yeah, mine's claiming it's powered up. So if not, I can see if I can track down another power supply for you.
That's cool. We'll see if it actually.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
You must have Yosemite on there or something.
Exactly.
So I think food, we got sodas down in the vending machine, we got quarters out here, so.
Cool.
I gave a listen to the Power Scripting podcast. That's area on the, I think you're on the last one, right?
Oh, was I? I don't know when they released it, actually. Yeah. I was on there recently, I remember.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
Yeah, I was just on the one, like one or two before you.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Cool.
I was talking IPv6.
Oh, wow. Okay.
IPv6 and PowerShell.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, that was all chapter 5 of my book, so.
So
it was pretty easy to chit chat about it. So it's good. Good stuff. You didn't get to make Tech Ed Europe?
Yeah, I've never been to Ticket, actually.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm VMware, so I mean, unless we go for the competitive side, we don't really.
Oh, I'm just surprised, just given the so the PowerShell.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. There's just like so many conferences I'd love to go to though.
Which ones do you actually make it to, besides VMworld, obviously?
PocketConf.
Okay, so Shannon McFarland was at PocketConf in Cisco. I don't know, do you know Shannon?
No.
Works on a ton of OpenStack stuff. He's in the office of the CTO for Cisco.
Okay.
Working on OpenStack integration.
Cool.
Great guy. So we're live broadcasting. I just left it.
Okay.
We got 2 viewers, so I don't know who's actually on, but I guess we could check.
Traffic was horrendous getting here, so I'm assuming it's the same for everybody.
Yeah, I assume it's going to be bad for everyone. There doesn't seem to be any better situation for.
Yeah. I hope at least some of them. Or is it just me and
Well, they're over here too. And whoever's on the hangout.
So is there Wi-Fi?
Yes, the SSID, there's Grouper up there, and then Grouper of 511 with capital G. Should be able to get you on with that. I'm going to post in this, I'm going to quickly edit up the meetup page to have the link for the this on there. Let's see. Let me know if that doesn't work for you. I'll double check it. I don't jump on that one, so.
Yes, it's connected. Don't know whether it's or not.
I think Google Hangout users, so you know any tricks of the trade. It's not screen share. So
Yeah, I think you just wait till I come on and then you.
I can just hand it over to you.
Yeah,
Right?
I think so. Yeah.
Sweet. And if you want, I don't have to be plugged in on this. I can move this back down to my desk, and we can plug you in to do whatever screen display you want to do up there. I was just testing to make sure it actually worked. Putting this back down. So, you need to support, right?
Yeah, or I can do either.
I figure it's going to take people a while, so we might start about 6:30 or something like that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is it all right? Should get a decent screen resolution on this one. So. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Hey, how are things? Yogurt.
Long to that, just getting set up here.
Cool.
I just wanted to find that hashtag.
I just did NorCal PowerShell the same as the actual.
Okay, that's fine.
Just to make it easy.
Cool. I will go to twitter.com. Is Alan there?
Yes.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, good day, mate. I know you're not Australian, but it's close enough.
Really?
Really?
Is it really?
So what did we see? 20 on the RSVP?
Yeah. There's just the two of us sitting in the room right now, so I have a
Zero in
feeling,
the room.
so I have a feeling it's folks are going to be a little late getting on, just due to traffic.
Okay. And typically I always assume half show up. So, and then you got June, Blender. She's not going to be there. Everybody else, I assume, will be there. So, cool.
Cool. And I said, let me see, Alan's going to be looking up somewhere.
So, Alan, I've been pitching this to all my VMware admins at work. So,
Cool. Thank you.
I'm beating them over the heads to learn PowerShell. So, they have Mexican Cokes here at Splunk. Very nice.
You up on the third floor, or are you on the first?
Third floor training room.
Yeah, that's where I was for the Ansible meetup. It's a really nice facility.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, Alan, did you have a chance to chat with your folks about hooking up a San Francisco location?
Oh, you know what? I totally didn't, but I will.
Okay. I spoke to the Script Rock guys today, and they have a mailing address in San Francisco, but no office. They're down in Mountain View, actually. So,
Okay.
but they're going to ask around if there's anybody in the city that they know would be interested in helping us. So,
Yeah, the only other. Trying to think who else might. I don't know if the Salesforce folks or Yammer would be willing to host or something like that.
yeah,
Nice.
I've already got this going on here, and I know they have a couple other meetups that they host here. I don't want to press my luck here, so.
No, I was saying maybe Yammer or Salesforce.
Okay. Cool. So, and Alan, it doesn't have to be your company. If you know any companies in the city proper that would
Sure.
host, you know.
Let me have a think about it. Yeah, let me have a think about it.
You know any like Microsoft Gold partners? Usually you can guilt them into doing it. So.
Yeah, one of the training providers we used to work with a lot is LearnIt. That's up there. They do. So.
Yeah.
They might be willing to host something.
Now, Alan, you know the routine. Ed's going to send you the invite, and then remember when you're ready for him to take control go over his face in the Hangouts app, and what is it? Make presenter or something like that. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out how I join it.
I sent you an invite. You again?
Like Gmail or
whatever the Google Plus. I'll send it again.
Oh, I see it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, actually, yeah.
You want me to send it again? Or? I'm going to send it to you directly. Should it just pop through? Pop on the. You can try it on the chat. It's the event. Hopefully that pops you in.
And then click on that. Ah, there we go.
That drops you on the YouTube. I don't think we want them on the YouTube, right? We want them on the regular event channel.
Oh, scary.
Yeah, so I think it means that's just the overall.
How do I make it?
Let me try this again.
How do I actually join the Hangout?
Here, let me try this one. Here you go. Try that one instead. Join video call. That looks better.
Yeah. The one we need to tweet. We have an echo.
It's just you. So I can give you.
It's pretty cool.
What the heck is that?
That's me sharing my desktop. So I guess that's. So can you see my slides?
I can see the slides through here.
Through Google Hangout?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Eric, can you see the slides? It's going to be on your laptop if I can switch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can. Cool. Audio sounds good.
good.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and
I'm gonna go ahead and drop off,
and then
and I will.
Is this streaming
Is
live?
this streaming live?
Yeah, it's streaming live because we originally
Test
had
it.
Test it.
And I'll let you
And
know.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, fellas. Have a good
All
one.
right, fellas. Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks. So how do you know this is streaming live?
Because when you first joined, you joined the YouTube channel instead of joining the.
Oh, okay.
And it was streaming, so it was playing. It was delayed.
Okay.
You guys want some pizza? Jump in.
Thanks.
Cool.
May as well. We're waiting for people.
How
You
much
want me to order this?
people are having a hard time trying to find it.
I put a note on the front door of that one, just so that they know to come over to this one. I don't know if you stopped at the other one.
I saw that.
You saw the note?
Yeah.
Hopefully it was clear enough, so. Starting at 6:30.
Like,
If not, it's going to be nice and cozy. Just be a Q&A though.
is there any people online?
I don't know.
Hey. All right, we're all good. Cool. All right, dude. Thanks, John. Cool. All right. Well, he sets us up. He was able to watch it. Grab some pizza and see how lost people are.
Sure.
Better than having to drive all the way up to San Francisco.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Although the last time I was worth it, Jeff was not gonna mind that enough. What? Right, yeah, absolutely. Sort of.
And I have a good relationship with Jeffrey and the other guys, so it's not really that critical.
Sort of funny because it's all politics, right, for certain things. Right? Because I'm assuming you're not a Microsoft MVP then.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm allowed to be. I don't know. I know I've been put through a couple of times by various people.
Mhm.
And haven't received anything.
It's just one of those politics things, right?
Probably.
And they should extend. I know they've done this in the past where they've extended it to people, but you can't do the NDA, but you can still take the award. You don't go to the MVP summit and actually hear the NDA information. You just
Yeah, well,
You still
I mean, it's all PowerShell stuff anyway, so I don't really get what I would gain from learning about NDA PowerShell stuff that I can build on with our product and enhance the ecosystem. So,
right. But it's definitely a community recognition sort of thing.
Hmm.
I don't know. I gave my MVP up, so I retired.
oh really?
Yeah.
How come?
I was an MVP for 10 years.
How come you retired?
be honest, 10 years being an MVP, there's a commitment to having to put the time and energy into doing all the work. My belief is that it's very hard. It's a hard argument to make to say that someone for 10 years consistently is performing at a level to deserve an MVP, right?
Yeah.
And, I decided to step away from much of the community work I was doing, things to concentrate on some career stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, guess that's point right.
I felt like it was time to change.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people tweeting and bugging me this week because they're all up there for MVP Summit. Where the heck are you? Like, I'm the MVP. Yeah. That's where I am.
It makes sense as to why I'm getting emails from Jeffrey this week then.
Yeah, they got all the MVPs up there this week, doing all the NDA stuff.
Him and Hal sent me a screenshot of something. Said, see, this is why you need to go to modules. I was like, yeah, thanks, guys, I know.
Yeah, that was a funny conversation on the podcast.
Yeah, it was.
You're still in the group left. Yeah. So, buddy.
Hey, how are you doing? Alan.
Alan? Sean, nice to meet you. Yeah.
What's up, dude?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Good to see you.
Thanks for swinging by. Everything well?
Yeah, man. Really good to see you, dude. Everything's really good. Of course everything's good. It's a mothership.
So are you actually going up to San Francisco on a regular basis still? Or are you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're actually moving into an office on Stevenson, and we're sharing it with Silvertail.
Oh, really?
So I get to hang out with Anne-Marie and Chef.
That's funny, dude. So Sean's with
Cloud Scaling.
Cloud Scaling.
Okay.
It was just bought up by EMC, part of their new hybrid cloud software-defined data center.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Their first sort of bigger OpenStack acquisition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a pretty big one. And then not too long ago, they bought Pivotal.
Right. Yeah.
Cloud Foundry.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Yeah.
pretty big cloud.
Cisco did their counter move and bought MetaCloud.
Yeah.
So Nikki Costa's over there.
Yeah, we have a couple people that went over from over to. And Trevor is working over at Cisco too, right?
Yeah.
Trevor Roberts. I don't know if you guys know
Sean Roberts. Sean Roberts is over at VMware.
Yeah.
So he's working in the office CTO. I think it's office CTO, right? I think so.
I don't know.
I think it's office CTO.
I don't know the name.
So Sean's over there for. Well, I imagine he's in Paris right now. It's all the OpenStack stuff in Paris.
Yeah.
So,
So he would probably be with EMC's advanced software division,
Mm-hmm.
more than likely, or emerging technologies.
no, I think he's actually aligned in the VMware side. Not,
Is he on the VMware side?
yeah, he's on the
Okay.
VMware side. So he's aligned in the VMware side, not. But I think he's like adjacent to Casado and stuff. The NSX team, they have the counterpart team working on the cloud virtualization side. So I don't know if that all rolls up to Martin now or not.
Some pizza men, have you?
Sure.
There's some drinks right there. If not, there's some quarters there. If you want to grab a different soda there. Yeah, been in this building before. There's a
What does GroupWare do?
down the end of this hall.
We're integrator product. We sell it.
And you work for GroupWare? Okay.
Myself, Daryl work for GroupWare.
Mm-hmm.
I've been involved with up in New York, up in San Francisco Bay, the HackIT Pro user group.
Okay.
I was involved with them for years, 15 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Helping run that group. And,
Is that pretty big?
Yeah, you know that user group usually gets between 65 and 110 people per month.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, for a user group.
Mm-hmm.
Met at the Microsoft offices.
And what is that? Just general IT, or is what?
Yeah, general IT with sort of a Windows focus.
Okay.
We've had all sorts of folks in presenting. Yes, that was part of the stuff that I sort of stepped away from. 15 years of user group, I think I put my dues in there.
So what are you doing now?
My role's getting very defined.
Yeah.
What I was doing is I deployed some really big cloud infrastructure for some cool companies. Deployed a really nice size cloud for Ubisoft that they use to serve up Assassin's Creed for iOS. So every file that they serve up for that is backed by Swift, which I built. Built a cloud. I don't know if you have heard of eVault's long-term storage system cloud, LTS2.
Mm-hmm.
I built that. That was the first cloud that I built for cloud scaling. And then we just built one for a customer that I can't mention the name, but it's 22 racks a year.
Cool.
Serves up about 800 million images for their website.
Yeah.
And I guess now, I think I'm moving into product management.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shift gears.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
No?
Yeah, this guy should know.
No, it's good fun. I guess.
On the more on the technical side, I don't want to get into the
How'd the documentation spread stuff go?
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wrote a nice book, 200 and something pages in 5 days. That was fun. Ken Hui who was from Rackspace at the time got me involved in that, and then he joined up at EMC and couldn't take part in that. But it was a lot of fun.
It seems like there's a lot of realignment going on right now in the OpenStack side. So
Everybody's figured out that it's going to win in some way or another. And not to say that it's going to take out like VMware, because VMware is just a piece of it as far as the hypervisor is concerned, and it's got a different. EMC's got a different approach for it for VMware. Like the idea is kind of similar, and it'll play into what you guys do here a lot today, right? So their idea is that hybrid cloud system available with VMware, backed by vCloud Air, able to migrate workloads, shift workloads, do all that kind of auto scaling and fun stuff.
yeah, I really see the OpenStack side giving you sort of a more generic API, right to the 80% sort of rule, right?
Yeah.
Where if you write to that, everyone else gets on board, you're going to be okay in terms of what your product release cycle looks like. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Come on in.
I think then the other two that they just announced are going to be Microsoft and the OpenStack private cloud solution, hybrid cloud solutions actually.
Right.
Microsoft on VCP with Azure, which
Gee, I wonder.
you're already doing that, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then OpenStack on VC, VBlocks, VMAX with Viper and all that cool stuff.
And help yourself.
NSX,
Some
or Open vSwitch.
There's some quarters here.
Did you see what
There's water.
you do and Brent Salisbury and John Lewis did? I split off and started a socket playing.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So they're doing networking for Docker.
Yeah.
For Docker containers, networking integration with ODL.
Docker is so badass. We actually had one of our top engineers who was the biggest committer in our group for OpenStack code. He went and left and joined the No Docker team.
Oh, okay.
And they're going to do well.
Yeah.
They're going to do really well. That company is solid.
Well, it's really interesting seeing Microsoft's announcement. I had a couple people who were really confused about what Microsoft announced, and I'm like, they didn't understand. They're like, oh, we're going to get Windows workloads that you can orchestrate on top of it. Linux Docker image. I'm like, yeah, no. It's called WCS, right? It's the Windows Container Service that the research team's been working on for a long time. That's a secure version. You'll just have the same Docker API calls and you'll be able to sit on top of a Windows instance set that has WCS enabled.
Oh, okay.
be able to orchestrate it with the same Docker API. You're not going to get like Windows container sitting on top of a Linux Linux workload. So it doesn't really work that way. So it'll be really sort of be pretty fascinating to see how that all breaks out, because I think that's going to be a pretty good alignment.
Well, it was fun getting to get exposure to all the Microsoft Cloud stuff early on.
Can't help you, right?
Are you kidding me? I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for groupware and the false cloud practice that got the kickstart earlier than it actually got built.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's good fun. We're doing some fun stuff now.
No, you guys are doing some cool stuff. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mr. Hawkins is not around?
I think he's jumping on online. He had to go home and do some stuff. I think his dog is not feeling so good. So his Dotson had some more back issues or something. So they take care of the pooch.
That is
Nice.
unfortunate.
I'm glad I wasn't the worst today.
Yeah, no, it's bad traffic getting southbound. It's just bad traffic in the South Bay.
Yeah, we should just kind of accept that it's the normal thing, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's just normal.
It's not a drought, it's a desert.
Yes. It's gone past desert. We're in Dune now. We're waiting for the
I
worms to
have,
come
friends, I
up.
have friends in Southern California who say the Beverly Hills neighborhood is still very green and lush, so we just need to head down there with pitchforks.
Not a lot you can do about that. I don't think Southern California is ever going to get out of that mentality.
No.
Water's free.
Right.
It comes from Northern California. Suck them dry.
Damn hippies.
That's how it's been all my life. I'm born and raised in Northern California, right? We teach you some basics: reading, writing, arithmetic. LA sucks.
Yeah, so San Francisco thinks that LA cares about that too, but LA doesn't actually care.
That's a thing. In LA, they don't teach you reading, don't teach you writing, don't teach you arithmetic. You're just aware of the rest of the world. The only thing that matters is you.
It's funny, they're the ones living in the desert, but it seems like a desert here.
I'm Paula, by the way.
Hi, Paula. I'm Ed.
Hello, Ed.
Sean.
Hello, Sean.
Hey,
I
Alan.
know you, man of the hour.
So, Paula, who are you with?
Grace Note
Grace
in Emeryville.
Okay.
It's recently acquired by the Tribune Corporation, but we do metadata.
Oh.
Music. Like when you put the old-fashioned thing is when you put a CD into iTunes and it gets all of the track information and
Oh,
all
wow.
that, but no, there's lots more than that.
I always wondered how that worked.
Magic.
It's just
There's a little guy typing real fast.
Is that what it is?
It's an elf.
Listening to my music.
Yeah. Yeah, most of our elves are Linux, but I deal with the Windows elves. I've been teaching myself PowerShell and PowerCLI and really getting a little obsessed.
Oh, awesome.
Good.
Cool. So you in all Python?
Python, Ruby, Chef, Pirate. But
And you're a PowerShell user group.
I need to learn.
Yeah, you gotta go, man. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
You're beyond this.
No, Sean's going to learn DSC now, so.
I have to learn everything. I mean, I have to learn the Microsoft solution. I have to learn the VMware solution because I'm going to help architect a lot of the reference architectures.
Okay.
I'm going to be working with the business managers who are responsible for actually developing all the hybrid cloud solutions that Lindsay is building right now.
Cool.
Yeah, such fun stuff. Thank you for that jump start.
Yeah, well, we've been doing some fun stuff with AWS and Azure too. So, guys have been hacking around interesting.
Really, the only caution that I would make to AWS, which is the same with any cloud service, is not to lock yourself into feature sets that are so exclusive to it that you can't choose to migrate, move, leave, take the workload back. You know,
Or you're too tied to that API, right?
Yeah.
You can't move off that API.
Yeah.
Azure.
Imagine they're hoping that.
Yeah, I mean, there's 48, 50. Actually, no, there's more than 50 feature sets now available in AWS, the ones that you can actually move to other services or like
10.
Yeah. When you talk about GCE, vCloud Air, your own private cloud, OpenStack, like HP Cloud, IBM Cloud software, any of those.
Yeah, the only one that's got V6 is software.
So
There it is.
while I was at the book sprint, I got to hang out with two very, very cool guys from Comcast.
Oh,
Wait, that should
Jason?
Wait, that sentence makes no sense.
So
So Comcast has been doing very heavy investments in OpenStack.
No, I just meant
And the
I was being
V6.
smart ass, but
very cool guys from Comcast.
Comcast being an asshole.
John Jason Bukowski is a nice guy.
No, actually, I was hanging out with Sean Collins and Anthony Vega,
Okay.
who wrote the IPv6 support into Neutron for OpenStack. So there was no.
Still not baked all the way, but.
It's not. Well, they have full IPv6 solution running at Comcast.
Oh yeah, no, but they have to commercial stuff to get all that.
But they're running full native IPv6 on everything.
Yeah. I still believe it's an urban myth, but
Yay. Wrong room with me.
I'm in denial.
You're in denial.
Mm.
I'm waiting for the announcement. I'm wondering if, I doubt if it's going to happen at re:Event next week. Amazon's going to fund it V6 because I know the price tag is going to take a bit.
Well,
I've been hammering on Microsoft and the Azure team. Just like, poor Albert Greenberg's tired of here. He's like, hey, just go away.
Are you still talking to your team?
I just sent her an email today.
Oh, really? How weird.
Yeah, I sent her an email along with Christian Nelson, and also new over on your IT ops team is one of our former employees.
Looks like there's going to be plenty of it. So help
Is
yourself.
Arnell Alvarez.
Mhm.
And so Arnell has done some V6 deployments with them. He's got great V6 experience.
Okay.
If you're looking for
I assume that you work with me.
I do.
He's a
Very strange.
CCIE and route switch SAN.
So I work as part of the cloud team,
He's triple IE.
primarily focusing on
He
private
did.
clouds right
He
now,
wrote
but
several V6 projects.
most hybrid
He
and
was on the team.
public as well.
Okay.
Wrote some training material for the Nexus OS for IPv6.
Okay. Cool.
He's very, very skilled. So if you're looking for resources.
No, I'm very far away from IPv6, thankfully.
I've heard about that one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what
We
you
have a
still
Pretty good sized lab back here.
program
Yeah,
V6, right?
pretty much have a little bit of everything running in it, so
Time, or
never heard.
I still what, sorry?
in terms of owning
Give
V6
some
from a
additional
stack perspective, do you own V6
skills.
I don't personally know. I'm purely CLIs and, yeah,
Not all day.
and automation frameworks, which is what we do with Chef and Puppet. And Salt and Ansible and configuration management tools in general.
OpenStack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
I've
asked
been
me
paying
for
more
last
attention to
one.
Ansible since it seems like the network.
I think it's still busy with it. I haven't had time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really
Yeah, it's
interesting.
something
I've got a lot of
We're
things
interested in, but at the same
I
time,
started working on.
you know.
What's the reason for them choosing Ansible?
Just
we just felt like
It's
that.
no agent.
Yeah.
This would be a good
Flexible,
opportunity to
you
kind
know,
of jump in from the ground up and kind of get through it, you know,
If they don't have a new guy,
get the experience. So
do some of this
so far, after the
Oh, really?
one, pretty interesting. But
without having to worry
I
about
think the next one's
having a pre-built agent to build that
Second?
platform. So they still
December
do the
2nd.
sort of
Yeah.
the semi-equivalent of
I
screen
think they're
scraping,
going to start going through
but
right
not-
now from the ground up.
not entirely.
Okay.
I guess they've done some syllabuses and stuff that they've written. It should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it's still too early to build a full professional services group around the stack cloud deployment or anything like that. It takes so many various skill sets and so many different systems, and there's so many different choices that customers can make along the way between like different hypervisors, different storage systems that they want to support.
See, it wasn't too long kicking the can down
No, no. You absolutely were not. But I think in the next 6 months you'll see some vendors that really come to the plate with some full solutions.
That's sort of what I'm. It's sort of what I. It's a partner alignment thing for us. I've been stalling until we get to see the right partner.
Yeah, I think you'll see it out of EMC. You'll probably see it out of a few others, but we announced a really cool partner program, and we've already announced partnerships with Red Hat, Brantis, VMware,
See, I was gonna.
Canonical.
So I was going to do since we have such a strong relationship on the right-hand side already,
Yeah.
I was going to leverage that up to sort of move the ball forward.
They have a professional quality distribution called OpenStack Platform 5. I would recommend that you guys just kick the can on it and download it, play with it.
So Pear already went through that one. So you sat through the radio training for that. Cool. So I think it's something where more to the point now where we think we can start looking at it. Right. I'm gonna go stick my head out, make sure there's no one driving around wondering what they are.
It's pretty obvious. I mean, every place else is deserted, and the doors open, and there are cars here. And I realized I wasn't thinking of.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good.
Yeah, it seems the only challenge that I really see that I've been seeing on an ongoing basis that sort of concerns me is that I've seen as a challenge with the handful of things that I've been talking to is the upgrades cycle is still really not solid. I mean, if you're on a certain release set and you want to move up, I think most of the other manufacturers who compete in that space already have that built and already have that solution done.
We just figured it out. We just got it working in the last 90 days.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's really immature on that side, and if you've done any customization, you're going to break that capability so moving forward. And I think that's a big challenge for a lot of shops.
That's why we've been so hard on reference architecture and said, no, it's got to be this way.
Right.
Can't change it. Because if you want us to be able to upgrade you in the future, you can't have a billion variations to worry about support.
Exactly.
So it's like, no, we don't have upgradability now, but if you want this to be able to be upgraded, you cannot vary this in like 17,000 different ways.
Yeah, that's been a big concern, is sort of like the scratch of the head, like how are you going to solve this?
Well, I heard the initial story for the first cloud for cloud scaling was Korea Telecom, 16,000 nodes, and it was like 300 something different node configurations between the 16,000 nodes.
Yeah. Good luck.
6-month project.
Well, I thought the funniest thing I heard was I was reading an article. The guys on Twitter was going out there saying, "Yeah, we did the upgrade process. We were able to do it. We took everyone, all our expensive resources, stuck them in their room for an entire weekend. And we spent the entire weekend hammering everything out to get the upgrade done." So wait, so the whole point of a cloud is to automate. You took all your engineers and stuck them in a room to do non-automated things to get your upgrade done. How does that make sense? Like, isn't that like completely counterintuitive to the point of why you built the infrastructure the way you built it? It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because he was sitting there bragging like, "Yeah, well, you can do the upgrade." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's not doing an upgrade. That's basically just rebuilding a network system, and porting people over." That's.
What's funny is I look back now at the project that we were working on for Steve, and I think of all the things that were baked into the product at that point.
Hey, welcome. Come on in.
Grab a seat. There's pizza. There's quarters over here, and there's a soda machine for the kitchen down the hall. So you can grab whatever you like.
So now I can see all different ways where the product fell short at the time, the things that were missing, features that were lacking, things that just were not acceptable.
Yeah.
Hey Raj, I'm Alan.
Hey, Raj.
Yeah, you can sit at the table, man. We got plenty of room there. We haven't filled up yet.
So it's 6:30. We should start. Is there any way of checking the audio is working? Is Eric still on?
I don't know if Eric is still. He left the group chat, so.
Okay, maybe he's not.
I'm assuming he's not. I can go. Daryl, you want to go jump in the other room and just hop on the YouTube channel?
Can you just double check you can hear us? Thank you. And it's coming through my mic, right?
Yeah, it's
The
coming
audio.
through. I
Okay,
went
cool.
ahead and muted and turned mine off so that
Okay.
we don't get feedback.
Good stuff.
I have a whopping 3 viewers. So.
Woohoo! It's going to be one of those personal user groups.
So that's tight.
Yes. It is. I agree.
So they kept you here instead of shipping you off to Paris?
I had some complications around travel due to all of the acquisition stuff, and so didn't get to travel.
You can hear us okay?
Because
About a 15-second delay, but yeah.
Okay,
So is Randy back up right now?
that's cool.
So should we all
Randy's,
pause between-
there's a whole team of people there now.
Well, let's wait for Raj.
Oh, Nick just said it's working good.
Vancouver.
Vancouver. In 6 months, right?
That's the next North America.
Yeah, I might try to make that one.
It will be viable for a professional services group to actually have a product and a support channel and a sales channel and all of the other things that are important for success. Because without all the other things, like you don't even have a sales. Like, what do you market with? What do you for someone?
Yeah, no, that was. Plus, there's going to be some more consolidation in the market here in the next few months. You and I both sort of know some of those folks that are going to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I need to pull up Twitter. Sure, there's nothing popping up on that side.
Okay, let's go. So it's only a small user group today. So why don't I find out what you guys are really here for, and ladies, of course.
I'm the guy. I'm an honor.
Okay, you guys are really here for, so that I can do what you want rather than take you through my deck. And if you want me to go through the deck, I can do that, definitely. But as there's only a few people here, you know, you came for a reason today. What is that reason? Do you have any questions? Did you just literally come and
As my neighborhood.
Yeah, free pizza.
Right,
Like,
exactly. From Berkeley.
I'm bored of sitting on the 85. I'll go
No,
get some
I'm
pizza.
just interested in learning more about this. I don't really have a specific agenda. I've been using PowerCLI and it's been helping a lot.
Okay.
And I feel the power.
So are you a beginner? Are you medium?
I don't know. I'm
an
self-taught
expert?
with all of my PowerShell stuff,
Okay.
so it's really hard for me to say.
Do you want a book?
Sure, why not? I think in some ways I'm probably intermediate, and I'm sure in 6 months I'm going to go back to some of my scripts and go, oh, what the hell was I thinking?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is fun.
I think everybody does that, right?
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I have no specific agenda other than learning more.
Right. You have to be here because you work here.
Otherwise, we're going to be stealing office supplies.
But it's interesting to me as well. I mean, primarily I focus on Hyper-V.
Okay.
I have some background with VMware.
Uh-huh.
It's been a while since I've messed with it, but it is interesting to me. So, you know, I'm good from the ground up. Wherever you feel like you need to start, I'm perfectly
Okay, cool.
I do a small amount of automation. Just
Small amount. Look at it.
Yeah, right.
just started working with EMC now recently.
Yeah.
Due to acquisition, so
Uh-huh.
I kind of assumed it might be a good idea to understand a little bit about PowerCLI, and when Ed invited me, I was like, wow,
Sure.
that just kind of works out perfectly because
Okay.
I'm close.
I used to work for EMC as well. Before VMware, I worked for EMC in the vSpecialist unit. So it's cool.
Yeah, you mentioned I also do a lot of automation,
Okay.
particularly in the Active Directory side,
Uh-huh.
automating the user, disabling, and all, using PowerShell.
Uh-huh.
And I'm getting into VMware as well. I just
Okay.
want to know how VMware can be automated.
Okay, great. So you take a book as well then.
Thank you.
Does anybody else need a book, by the way? I've got one spare one here that I don't want to carry home. Here you go. Take it away, even if you give it away to
I
somebody.
love PACT. I've worked with them before.
It wasn't written by me. It was written by one of the community members, Robert.
Yeah.
So he's done a good job of taking you through the beginning stuff and taking you to the point where you can learn for yourself. So yeah, I mean, really, I'll take you through the standard deck. But if there's any point where you want to expand on it at all, or ask questions, or we need to jump out into a shell and just do some stuff, I'm RDP'd into my test server at work, so we can mess around there. And also, I wanted to.
I'd like that. I'd like some live stuff.
Let's do it. Absolutely. I was going to do a few demos of some live stuff. You can see the red errors that I get to prove that it's live.
I can make red.
Yeah.
I'm really good at that.
And then I was going to show you something that we built on top of PowerShell and PowerCLI in our web client, which is pretty cool. And it's kind of opening up PowerShell and PowerCLI to a different environment. So for you guys that don't know me, yeah.
What is PowerCLI? I know PowerShell. What's PowerCLI?
Yeah, I will talk about that. I promise you, in great detail. So, if you don't know me, I work for VMware. I'm a product manager. I used to work for VMware as a technical marketing person. So I used to actually go out and talk about how to use PowerCLI. I've done the full cycle really, because I started off as a user. I was somebody managing a VMware environment, got frustrated with not being able to automate anything, and then found PowerShell and PowerCLI. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll pick this up. I started using it, and then got quite good at it. And then VMware asked me to come and work for them and talk to other people about how I used it and work in technical marketing. And then I got to the point where now I'm owning the product and I'm making decisions about where it goes and what you guys want to see from it. So, all the way through this, if there's something that jogs your memory or something that annoys you about managing your VMware infrastructure, please do let me know, because that's the kind of stuff that we take and it goes straight back into the product. If not in the next release, in a future release, definitely. We're very community-based and very community-fed with our list of things that we want to do. So we have a VMware blog there where we put all the announcements and sample code and various ways that you can use PowerCLI. But I also have my personal blog as well. I don't spend much time on it at the moment, unfortunately, because I am a product manager. The two don't go hand in hand so well. And I'm on Twitter as well. So if you're new to VMware, and it sounds like some of you are used to other products like OpenStack and Microsoft and Hyper-V and things like that, then this is kind of the overview picture that I created a little time ago. So things have changed a bit since this picture, but I still use this picture because it gives you a good overview of what we have in something called our vCloud Suite. And our vCloud Suite is basically a suite of software that enables our users to work with what we call the software-defined data center. So we've got various different products in our suite that give you different capabilities. And we'll start with the stuff that most people know, things like ESXi is the vSphere server in this case, and that's obviously where we run our VMs. And then we have Virtual Center that sits above that and kind of manages all the ESX hosts and has all the features in there that all the nice features that make all this work together and treat it like a managed platform. And then we have vCloud Director, which is basically our cloud platform, really. So that's how you would actually add up multiple vSpheres and enable you to give a single user portal to other people, enable things like multi-tenancy, and basically give people sections of an environment, give them resources, and enable them to use it and give them an organization. So we have vCloud Automation Center, which is a product that we use as a self-service catalog. And that's really about giving the users the ability to go back in and start creating their virtual machines and managing their workloads. It's a kind of automation where you can actually hand off all the work and you can put restrictions around what they do. You can make sure that they follow certain procedures and that those procedures are approved. And that they manage their systems, and not just VMware systems. That also hooks into AWS and Azure and things like that as well. So you can actually use that as a front-end service portal to a lot of different areas. And then we have a bunch of products around that, like vCenter Site Recovery Manager. That's actually a product that allows you to take your entire environment and move it to another site. So if you know that a hurricane's coming and your data center is going to go down, then it enables you to actually hit that button to fail over your entire environment, move all the VMs over to another site, another vSphere environment, and then bring them all back up again automatically.
Is that an add-on product?
Sorry?
Is that an add-on product?
It is an add-on product. Yes, absolutely.
This is pre-NSX because
this is
networking
pre-NSX.
security is the traditional networking.
Absolutely. So VCNS, vCloud Network and Security, has grown up and it's now VCNS.
Right.
Yeah. It's NSXV is what what vCloud and Network and Security is. So it's NSX for your vSphere environment. Yeah. It's not the multi-hypervisor version. And then we have vCloud Connector, which obviously enables you to connect your on-premise data center off to vCloud Air as well. So it enables you to move virtual machines up to the cloud, move them back again, create virtual machines in the cloud and really manage your virtual environment in the cloud in the same way that you manage your local environment as well. And then we have the green icons on the left-hand side. These are our management products. We have a bunch of different management products that fit around our vSphere environment. Things like Operations Manager. The screen that the little guy is looking at here is Operations Manager. It's the kind of all the nice graphs and the intelligence around the health of your virtual machines and your hosts and what they're doing. So it's a way to understand what your virtual environment looks like. Do you have somebody that's using up all the CPU space, all the CPU resources, all the disk space, or what's going to happen in your environment, that kind of stuff. We have Virtual Center Infrastructure Navigator, which is basically, it's a long time since I've used it, how to explain it. It's a product that allows you to visualize what's going on inside your applications. So it gives you kind of a Canvas-style interface where you can actually click on a virtual machine and investigate what's going on, and it'll do it'll use various techniques to find out what's going on inside your virtual machine, what it's connect to over certain ports, what databases it's connect to, and it really does try and draw out your entire infrastructure based on the kind of virtual machine view and what they're doing. So are they talking to a domain controller? If they are, what ports are they talking to it on? It allows you to kind of navigate in there and see what's going on.
I always thought it was like a dependency walker.
A dependency walker. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And then we have Chargeback Manager. I think Chargeback Manager is actually not there anymore. We've moved into a cloud solution there, but that's a way to actually work out which teams are using your resources and enable you to charge those costs back to the various teams or the people or the projects, so that you can benefit from virtualization while still gaining the money from the different areas that own it, because people sometimes think that virtual machines are free, and they're not. I think that covers most of the applications we have here. I really should update this because it's changed a lot since this diagram. But this gives you a kind of a general overview.
Is there a reason you have the Fabric application director just hanging up there?
It's a good question. Why did I put it up there?
I guess it's not part of the suite.
Well, the management suite of products, this is what it used to look like, the black box with the green boxes in it. That used to be the management suite of products. I think the Fabric application director is, that's really been merged into vCloud Automation Center now.
That's why I was sort of
and
curious.
it's like I said, this diagram's getting a bit old. Maybe should have updated it today.
About the recovery manager, is it
Yep.
like silent recovery sitting somewhere when the entire vSphere goes down, it automatically?
So what happens is you've actually got, you can do it in two ways. So you can either hook it into your storage array and allow your storage array to do replication to another site, so that both sites are always in sync. And then what it does is basically automates the failover. So it automates the fact that we're going to disconnect all the LUNs on this site, we're going to bring back the LUN on the other site, we're going to bring all those LUNs into the new site, bring it back online, register the virtual machines with the new site, and then bring them back on again. So it's a click the button and fail my stuff over, or recover on my site because my data set has just blown up.
You can do it proactively to migrate because you want to actually test your DR.
Exactly, yeah. Testing you can do. Yeah.
In fact, you can even virtualize your DR recovery. So if you're using vCloud Air, you can actually point it up there and spin your workload in there to test and validate it inside a container.
And you don't have to have storage array replication as well. We actually have a virtual storage, a virtual appliance that replicates the data across as well. Obviously not as fast as a storage array would do it, but still, pretty reasonable speeds. I don't have vSAN in here, absolutely. This is not an overall product list of what VMware does. This is the stuff that was in the suite, in our vCloud suite.
So you should make it look easy. It's just list the ones that are PowerShell.
Yeah.
PowerCLI enabled.
Well, that comes in a minute. I wanted.
This is designed to make you feel intimidated.
Yeah, this is the confusion slide. Now we'll get onto the easier stuff, right? So there's normally reasons why people come to these user groups, and that's the kind of reasons that I used to have when I was an admin, right? It's you're trying to get rid of those tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis that you really don't need to do, or you've got a list of things that you do every single morning to make sure your virtual environment is up and running and it's not going to cause you any problems that day, or you want to do things en masse. You're fed up of actually using the UI to right-click and create a new virtual machine when you've got 10,000 virtual machines to create. It's all the standard stuff here, but really what brought me into PowerCLI was the exporting the vCenter information. So I could always go into the vSphere client and I could see that my information was there about my virtual machines and my hosts and my data center. But when it came to actually exporting that information, it was, where's the right-click export all this information type stuff? There isn't one. So creating reports on a daily basis that you have to send to teams to say this is what your VMs are doing, or these are your VMs, or just basic information actually was really hard. And that's when I stumbled across PowerCLI. And the last question there, do you love to document? I think everybody knows the answer.
I do.
No, you
I
don't.
do.
Come
I
on,
really
come on.
do. I don't like to read other people's documentation, but I really like writing.
Okay. Okay. There's always one.
I'm not a page shell.
So there's a few tips and tricks that we can do with PowerCLI, one of which I'll show you later on today, which will help you with your documentation as well. And it helped me when I was an admin. So let's talk about PowerCLI. You asked, what is PowerCLI? I know what PowerShell is, but what's PowerCLI? So PowerCLI is basically VMware's way to manage the, let's hide this, VMware's way to manage your virtual infrastructure using PowerShell. So it's what we have is a bunch of snap-ins that we add into the PowerShell session that give you a whole bunch of commands that work with various different products that we have, and allow you to manage it in the same way that you would manage your Microsoft environment using PowerShell. So all the skills you take in learning PowerShell are not wasted when you move to a VMware world or when you manage VMware systems. VMware does a great job of virtualizing Windows. A lot of people virtualize Windows and want to use PowerShell because they see the benefit of using an object-oriented language and all the benefits that the PowerShell team have done such a great job of including. So I don't need to go over the basics of PowerShell here. You guys have all used it before, hopefully. You know that it comes with Windows. And essentially what we're doing is extending the PowerShell knowledge into a VMware world. And you can see it's a free product that we release that's got over 400 commandlets now for managing your VMware environment. And we can manage a lot of different things. So when we talk about vSphere and vCenter, we can talk about managing hosts, managing host profiles, managing virtual machines, snapshots, data stores, storage, anything you want to manage really is pretty much covered there. When we talk about vCloud Director, we can manage a lot of the different areas in vCloud Director. Later on, I'll talk about how we use something that we call low-level commands and high-level commands. And I'll tell you how that fits in with vCloud Director and what we do in vSphere as well. But essentially it means that you can always do what's in our APIs, but sometimes it's not in a friendlier way. Know how to do that, but the standard sysadmin that just wants .NET extreme new -vm command, they're the ones that we handcraft ourselves. and we make sure that they're the best possible experience for the end users.
So it's sort of like a SimC.
What? Sorry.
It's more like a deeper dive into
Yeah,
what you can,
exactly.
what you can
Yeah,
actually do.
it's harder, but you can do everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll show you a couple of examples of that later on. So you can see we cover a bunch of different products there, and we have great backwards compatibility as well. So at the moment we were on PowerCLI 5.8 R1, which was released very recently, and we cover all the way back to Virtual Center 4.1 and ESX 4.1. And it's...
Do you really have that many customers that are running versions that old?
Yes, you know what these people are like. I mean, you get banks, you get governments, you get places like that that find it hard to move on to later versions because they have to do so much testing and qualifying of solutions before they actually get to that point, right? So, yeah, there's definitely still people using 4.1.
The whole point of virtualization, right, was to allow
Well,
move on and off of the underlying platform easier, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, but there's still a certain amount of testing that needs to go on, especially in these larger environments. I would love it if people just installed the latest version, but yeah.
Does VMware use a prefix on their command set so that you know that their VMware command sets, like the way System Center kind of does, like get SC virtual network
Right.
System Center? Does VMware use anything like that?
No, we don't, and there's a reason. We were pretty much one of, or I think we were the first third party that brought out PowerShell commandlets. So back then we were kind of cutting edge and doing stuff, our way, to the point that we actually have a get VM, and now Hyper-V has a get VM, right? So, but we had a get VM before them, so it's ours. No. Ideally, yes. If we were doing it again, of course we would do that. But we don't want to break people's scripts now by saying we're renaming all of our commandlets just to be, not just to be good to the community, but there's obviously drawbacks as well.
Is there any consideration of building a sci-fi for alias, so you alias out those command sets and you can archive, you can allow them to deprecate the alias?
So, yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. It's not something I'd thought about, to be honest, and it's not something that comes up a lot. Generally, people are not managing Hyper-V and vCenter stuff hand in hand, or if they are, it's on a different box maybe. It's a good idea. Something we're thinking about.
I'm surprised you haven't been answered that.
No, I know, yeah. It surprises me now you brought the question up, right? Yeah. So it's basically my vision to enable PowerCLI for everything at VMware. I want to get to the point where all of those products you saw and all of the products you didn't see that we have, and believe me, there's a lot of them. I would love for you to be able to manage anything that you buy with PowerCLI. So it's my job to kind of enable that. And there's reasons for that. When we talk about PowerCLI, we see a lot of different people use PowerCLI. You probably see it from the PowerShell side as well, right? There's not one reason why you use PowerShell. From the admin point of view, yeah, it's great for automation. It's great for reporting. It's great for standing your infrastructure up. When I talk to people that are in R&D internally at VMware and also from other companies, they use PowerShell and PowerCLI to often build prototypes. So they'll actually, because it's so easy to read, so easy to write, and it abstracts so much of the APIs, they kind of use the commandlets to build their own workflows and prove that something works before they'll go back and actually, kind of solidify the code in a better language, if you like. So for prototyping, it's great for that kind of stuff. I've done it several times internally, actually. If somebody wants to automate something and they want it to work with other environments, then I'll do something and put it all together. Even sometimes put a nice GUI on it with like primal forms or something, and then show them, look, you can do this stuff. Look, I'm doing it right now. Here's the end result. And then we'll go back and say, okay, now how do we make that a product, right?
That's interesting.
So and the CTOs, we've already talked about the reporting side of things as well. So those kind of reports that we can create very quickly and very easily come in very handy there. When we talk about professional services, departments in various different places, This is great for kind of quick results, going out there, fixing stuff, making changes, deploying our products, and integrating a lot of the solutions together as well. Not just VMware solutions, but obviously, because it's PowerShell, taking it outside the box as well. PowerShell doesn't stop, or PowerCLI doesn't stop at the VMware stack. The fact that you can take it one step further and use PowerShell commandlets on your Windows virtual machines as well. And once you've installed Windows inside a virtual machine, why not hook into that virtual machine and then run some PowerShell commandlets in there to set up your environment? So we see people go all the way through with this stuff.
Now, is that a derivation of PS remoting? You guys are actually...
No, we actually have our own way to do that. So I'll talk about it in a little while, but we invoke, when you install a virtual machine on a VMware environment, you install something called VMware Tools.
Right. And
that adds all our drivers in there and certain things that we need. And it also installs a guest-side API for us to use. So what we can actually do is reach inside that guest, given credentials, of course, and run scripts inside that guest. Not only PowerShell scripts, but Bash scripts or BAT scripts. We can go inside a Linux machine or a Windows machine and actually kick off something and retrieve the output back into PowerShell as well. And then in our vCloud Air environment, we have some great commandlets that are being used for infrastructure automation, for hybrid integration as well, moving stuff from your internal cloud out up to your external cloud, working with both environments, setting up firewalls, making sure that it's all working together and integrating. So we've talked about this a little bit, but really what we manage at the moment is a great deal of stuff from VMware. So vSphere is what most people are used to, vCenter, virtual machines, snapshots, data stores, hosts. And then we also manage vSphere distributed switches. We manage vCloud Director, vCloud Air. We do some work with licensing, Site Recovery Manager, the product that enables you to actually move your virtual machines to another site. We actually allow you to do to work with that in PowerShell as well. We have 2 snap-ins for image builder and auto deploy. What that does is that enables you to basically set up a Pixie server that has ESXi on it, so you don't have to have any disks in your hosts at all. You can actually turn your host on. It will contact the auto deploy server. It will grab the version of ESX and it'll actually run it in memory for you. So it makes things like upgrading and always being on the latest version a lot easier. We have a subset of our vCloud commandlets as a tenant set of commandlets. So what we did is we worked out that the people that manage the cloud are not really the people that use the cloud, and the people that use the cloud are not really the people that are interested in managing the back-end infrastructure of the cloud. So what we did is we separated out the commandlets for our vCloud tenant users and gave them a subset of commandlets that were specific to working with vCloud Air for their environment. So if they're just using vCloud Air as a tenant or as a user of vCloud Air, then they would install that and use that. Hey, welcome. This is a very informal user group. If you have questions, please ask.
Thank you.
So I sometimes get this from the new people in the room. I don't expect to get it here at all, but everybody here understands pretty much what an API is and understands that PowerShell is really a client-side tool, right? What we do is we install PowerCLI on your workstation, or it can be installed on a server, but it doesn't have to be installed on our vCenter server, which some people get confused with. And then we allow PowerCLI to manage our other APIs as well. So it really is, you install PowerCLI on your client machine where you want to do the work, much like you would install our vSphere web client, our vSphere C# client, or you would launch a browser and hook into our web client. So use it on the client-side machine and take the processing. If you put it on your virtual center machine, you're obviously taking some of the processing away from that machine. So it's never a good idea.
And some people use jump boxes for PowerCLI.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen people use centralized scripting servers where they'll run all their PowerShell scripts as scheduled tasks, maybe, and they'll know that the scripts that are on there are kind of the live ones and they're in production. So yeah, they'll definitely use PowerCLI on those boxes as well.
So the client is going to the Windows.
Yes.
Can you run it on Mac?
No, you cannot run it on Mac. PowerShell doesn't work on Mac, unfortunately. Oh, well, wait until my demo later on, because I will show you PowerShell running on a Mac. I couldn't have paid you to ask that question. So if you look at our commandlets, you can see the kind of commandlets that we have, and this is a very basic list, obviously. But you know, the get VM will obviously list the virtual machines. You know, new VM creates a virtual machine. This is the stuff that I love about PowerShell, right? You can practically take anybody that's never read PowerShell before and put them in a room and give them a script and say, okay, what does this do? And they can pretty much work out what it does just by reading it, right? Because it almost reads as English. So you can understand that some of the finer grained stuff. And again, you know, this really is a deck that's based towards VMware type people that don't know PowerShell. So I expect everybody in this room knows what a pipeline is, right? So you know that if I do a get cluster one, I'm actually getting my cluster object. And what I'm doing is taking that object and pushing it through the command line and saying, okay, get VM, use that as an input, right? Get me all the virtual machines that are in that cluster. So it's a way of filtering your results until you get to the result that you need and then performing an action on it. So we obviously do a great job with our help. In fact, I've been told by our users that our help is better than some Microsoft help. So not a dig at Microsoft at all. I'm sure they've got great help. It's just not as good.
You better be careful because Eric's teasing on Twitter. Right?
Oh, is he really?
He's saying when will VMware convert PowerCLI to a module? And then
Nice.
he CC'd Hal and Jonathan Watts.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Eric. And we obviously have some great examples in there as well. So why don't, rather than talking about it and showing you screenshots, let's jump over to the test environment and see if it's still up. And see if we can do a live demo. He says, I'm just going to close this and go back in. Okay. So yeah, you know, standard stuff, right? If I do a get VM, I get a list of virtual machines. If I do a get cluster, I get a list of clusters. So all the get commandlets you would expect are there. We've got our own shell. So what we do is we actually install PowerShell via an MSI, and we set up this nice black-looking shell with the green PowerCLI writing. But this enables us to add a couple of things in there to make it a little bit easier for people that are first starting out. So we actually have our own commandlet that will get you a list of all the commandlets that we actually give you. And you can see we have a ton of different commandlets in there for managing different areas. And if you do a get vi command, you can see those different commandlets straight away. And then obviously, if you want to get more help about one of those, you would just do a get help, get VM, and it will give you the help. And we can go.
It's all the standard.
Yeah, we can do a full, or we can even do the examples, and I can show you a few examples.
Was it get VI command?
Yeah, get VI command.
Spelled out.
Yes. Get dash VI command. Yeah. Are you?
And I have an older version because I don't have that.
Okay, it depends how you started PowerCLI. If you've started a PowerShell console and then you've imported your, So the benefit of running it from the PowerShell icon is that we actually run a startup script that imports all the kind of nice stuff and makes it a lot easier. You can see if I start another PowerCLI session. Oh, really? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the objective behind this one really is to give people a hand when they get started. You can see if I start PowerCLI, it comes up with a nice message and says, hey, you know, here's some ideas for getting started. You know, use get VI command, get PowerCLI help, jump straight over to the community and be able to ask questions there. And here's how you connect to an vCenter and an ESX server, which I've already done in this case. Yeah, so we have some great help in here, and this is one of the things that we really do pride ourselves on, because we not only come up with the help ourselves, but we take help from the community as well. If some of this stuff isn't correct or isn't self-explanatory, we'll often get some emails from different customers, and they'll say to me, "Hey, have you thought about putting this in your help?" And that kind of stuff goes straight into our help, and it really does make the product better. We're strong believers in the community, and we have a great community around PowerCLI. There's one guy called Luke D. If you've ever raised any problem in the community at all, you'll know who that is, because he answers the questions within like 3 minutes. I mean, he's at the MVP conference this week, so it'll be interesting to see how fast he answers them this week. But he's a superstar. He really is, and he's so clever. So let's take a look at our virtual environment, because I messed around with it the other day. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. So we talked about the get commands, and the get commands are obviously the ones that retrieve the information, but let's mess around with some other commands as well. And I can show you how we can do some cool stuff. So new VM. Obviously, it creates a new virtual machine. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, use this template that I have to create this virtual machine. Call it awesome new app 10, and use this host. And when we say use this host, we can obviously work out which host to use based on a PowerShell command or a PowerShell script. So what we could do here is say, I want to create this virtual machine on the host that's got the most memory, because I want to give that virtual machine all the resources it needs. I want to give DRS a hand. So what we can do here is actually do a get VM host. We could select the memory and we could sort it by megabytes and then select the first one. So instantly we can actually create a virtual machine on our host that's got the most memory. And likewise, if we want to create it on a data store, and we don't really care which data store we want to create it on, we can actually put some nice code in here that says, get data store, and then sort it by the amount of space you're using, and then bring me back the first one that has the most amount of room, and put the VM on there. So I've just done a select first in here. I only have one data store. It's a test environment. I have a couple of hosts, but and you can see if we run that, it actually goes through and gives me a nice red error. Yeah. New VM operation is not valid due to the current state of the object. What? Am I still connected? How funny. I'm going to reconnect to my virtual infrastructure right now. Live demos.
It's not a good live demo if this doesn't happen.
Yeah. So when we connect to our virtual infrastructure, we've got a number of different ways we can do that as well. If I just do a normal connect, it'll actually try and use my current logged on credentials, my Windows credentials that I logged onto my box with, to connect to my virtual infrastructure and authorize me. If that doesn't work, what you'll see is a pop-up come up, because if my logged on user doesn't have access to my virtual infrastructure, and I need to provide some other credentials, perhaps I've got an admin account that I need to provide, then it will actually give me the box to hook into that. It's running very slow. This is the point where, hey, there we go. So it's connected me. Let's do a go VM. Right. Make sure we're connected properly. So the entire environment you're seeing me use here is actually virtualized itself. So I'm running a virtual environment within a virtual environment, which is why it's somewhat slow. Exactly. So let's take a look at that command that we ran.
You already have awesome news.
Yeah.
Awesome new app 10. There it is. Power it off.
Oh, okay.
It's time for 11.
I've clearly done this demo before. Okay. Yeah, the name also be Apple. There we go. So now it's creating our virtual machine for us. Saved myself somewhat. And the great thing that I love about PowerShell is ranges. Do you know what a range is in PowerShell?
It's in 1.10.
Yeah, exactly that. It sounds like a simple thing, but I love it. So I'll go through that in a second because it gives you, let me control C out of this, and then we can keep going. So yeah, a range, let's clear this. A range in PowerShell is exactly that, right? If I do 1.3, enter, it gives me the numbers 1 to 3. If I go 1 to 10, it gives me the numbers 1 to 10, 100, gives me those numbers. So, what's so great about that? Well, combined with the pipeline, what we can actually do is say, if I want a number of virtual machines, then why don't I just pipe that through? And remember, it's going to take the numbers one by one and push them through to the next command so that we can use those numbers. And then we can say, okay, for each of those numbers, go and create me a new VM on the data store. And I'll do a get data store here because, again, I only have one data store.
So that's a cheat.
That's a cheat right there, yeah. I mean, normally you would specify the name of a data store, or you would sort it by space, or you would do something right. Exactly right, depending on where you want it.
This is another cheat.
I have 2 hosts.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm going to do is select the first one, because I don't really care where it goes.
You don't specify it at all. You can just do get host and it will.
It won't pick one because you'll end up with a number of different hosts in that object. I mean, well, here you go. Let's prove it out, right? And it will come back and say, hold on, you said create it on a bunch of different hosts. What are you doing? And then we can go template, and I don't remember what I called my template. Correct that. And then we can say we want the name, and this is where we would use the 1, 2, 3 to be PS user group, and then we can do a $_. So $_ means the current object in the command line. And then we can end our for each statement, and we can say go create that, and it will tell us no. So you can see it says, okay, you've got a bunch of objects in there, and I don't know how to work on a bunch of objects. I know how to work with a single object, which is a host. So we can't supply multiple hosts and get it to do the right thing. What we need to do is actually provide it a little bit of help. So we can say select the first one, and it will go through, and for each of those numbers it will give us a nice error because I got something wrong. I'm doing well today. I think there's something wrong. Yeah, I think there's something wrong with my test environment here. Run out of space or something. Anyway, you get the point of what a range does, right? Is there anything else you guys want to see, or any more red messages you would like to see before I move on?
So on the ISE on the snap-in side, you just need to make sure you load.
Yeah, the VMware snap-ins. Yeah, it's normally an add PS snap-in VMware star, because then I'll add all of our snap-ins. Yeah.
Are you guys considering doing anything with like the PowerShell get repository, so you can just load it that way?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely considering it. But obviously, I need to move to modules before we can do that because we have snap-ins, and snap-ins you need to install rather than. I mean, we could do something straight away, right? We could work with something like Chocolatey to allow you to create that install script and package it with our installable and then upload it to Chocolatey. But I would rather do it correctly and have a module and have that feature available and have it signed and yeah, all the great stuff that comes along with modules.
Yeah.
It's definitely something we're working on.
What's the advantage of module?
The advantage of modules is that you can basically drag and drop the module files that VMware will give you, put them in the modules folder, and then your PowerShell session will automatically pick up our commandlets, rather than actually running through an MSI and installing the product.
More importantly is as PowerShell is progressing, they're saying even just dropping the modules inside that module parameter command file. Instead, let's use the git dash command sequence for using NuGet repositories and start using it the same way that Linux does, sudo apt-get install, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to install the VMware tool sets. Just let me do it that way. Well, modules are required in order to do that process because it just goes out, fetches it, and puts it in the directory for you, and just says, here you go.
Yeah. I think Microsoft have already done some blog posts around that, and I'm not sure if it's in the technical previews or if it is.
5.
Okay. So it's already there. So yeah, it's basically catching up with Linux, right? It's giving you the apt-get or the yum install type stuff, so that you can instantly grab what you need and install it on your local box. But it also comes in very useful when we start talking about desired state configuration as well, which is Microsoft's way of telling an object or telling a system what it needs to look like and making sure it looks like that system. So with desired state configuration, that's based upon using modules as well. So you can actually grab down the resources you need to configure the system straight away from a repository and then actually configure those systems.
So if you pass some chicken and egg problems, so it's sort of nice.
Yes.
For like VMware, it would be nice on boot sequence for VMs to already have desired state configuration laid down for that instance that it could install your tool sets automatically.
Right, exactly, yeah.
There's a lot of other things that you can take advantage of.
Yeah. So we've been through some of the get commands, and obviously they work well with the existing PowerShell examples. This was the thing that got me hooked on it straight away, the export CSV, allowing me to take that information and export it straight out into a CSV, was where I started, and then passing that information on.
So are any of the internal teams actually using this to drive any of their reporting engines or any of their other stuff that they're doing within themselves, or are they only writing the API and they're saying, we don't need to leverage that, we already have that in the API? So.
Well, so are any of our products using PowerShell under the covers and doing that kind of stuff?
PowerCLI,
yeah.
Drive their own reporting.
Oh no, they're not. We're a different beast than Microsoft. Microsoft obviously has Windows machines and their operating system is Windows. So they know PowerShell is going to be there.
Right.
Our customers are very much Linux based, and our virtual appliances are Linux based because you can't distribute Windows so well. So no, we don't count on PowerCLI being there. And we don't count our products on PowerCLI being there.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It has its good points and it has its bad points.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I would love for PowerShell to be under the covers because it would enable me to do so many different things. And
if Jeffrey gets his way, right, and they're able to open source it, on that side, then certainly that you can see where he wants to go with it long term. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And then, using some of the community examples, we can actually take it one step further. So rather than just going into something like a CSV file, we can export straight out into XLS. There's a guy the same guy again, Luke Deakins. He wrote a function called export XLS. So what that does is basically brings up Excel, pushes all your data out there, and it'll even create a graph for you as well. You can see how easy it is to do that. And I spoke about documentation, and you'll have to excuse me because this is where I have to find my videos that I created. And work out where they are. Then I'm give me a second. I clearly had my phone on at the time I recorded this. So, a little explanation about what I'm going to do here. When I was working as a user with PowerCLI, and I was working as a contractor, I actually went into one environment, and my boss came in that day and said, "Okay, I've got a meeting tomorrow with the execs of the company, and we need to basically document everything that we virtualized so far to prove that we're virtualizing machines and that we're making the most of this stuff that we're buying." And you know, we have 3 virtual centers. We have quite a large estate. We have a lot of hosts, hundreds, thousands of virtual machines. But can you document that for me, please, in the next couple of hours? So, and she wanted nice, pretty diagrams because she's talking to execs, right? They like diagrams. So I went away and picked up Visio and started drawing out our infrastructure in Visio, dragging and dropping a virtual center on there, dragging the hosts, drawing lines, dragging virtual machines, drawing the lines between those. And then I remembered the golden rule of PowerShell. If you do it more than once, automate it. So I sat down and thought, hold on a minute, you know, Visio is a Microsoft product. It doesn't have PowerShell commandlets, and this was some time ago. I don't know if it does now or it doesn't, but it didn't have PowerShell commandlets. But it does have a COM object. So what I did was I used PowerShell to go into my virtual infrastructure, pull the results back, and then basically use the COM object to hook into Visio and draw out my complete environment. So I could just point it at VC and say, go draw this stuff for me. And then obviously I was able to create the diagrams. And then what I did is I took that and I put that back into a script that I put on the internet and that everybody used so that they could see, you know, how first of all you could use Visio with PowerShell, and secondly, you know, how you could draw out your environment if you wanted to as well. And that's been adapted to work with AD and SharePoint and Exchange and a bunch of other stuff as well, Citrix. So, you know, it's a reusable script, of course. And the product that I'm using here is something called, it's not called Virtualization Eco Shell anymore, it's called PowerGUI. Have you guys used PowerGUI before? Yeah. So PowerGUI is pretty cool, actually. It has two things in it, and it's a free product. It was from Quest. Quest got acquired by Dell, so it's now from Dell. You can download it from their site. If you search for PowerGUI or go to powergui.org, you'll find it. And what you're able to do is basically put an MMC-style interface, as in all of these icons on the left-hand side here are basically PowerShell commandlets. So as I click on Manage Hosts, what that's actually doing is getting a list of my virtual machines. It's doing a get VM host, and it's actually just giving you the results back in the graphical interface. So it kind of enables you to add the automation, the GUI back on top of the automation. And it sounds a bit weird, right, because we've just got away from the GUI by using PowerShell, but it kind of makes sense, and if you use it, it works. The other product that they give you with PowerGUI is a script editor. I still use it now. It's still got some great features in there that I use, like a variables explorer and you know, debugger and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to use the MMC style interface, and you can see what we do here. So if we click on clusters, it will do a get cluster and return back the list of clusters that I had in my environment. And then what I can actually do is choose a cluster, and from the pane on the right-hand side, I can say generate VDiagram. And remember, VDiagram is basically a script. It's just a PowerShell script. So these are all actually parameters that you pass to the script. So it does a nice job of saying, okay, you know, what do you want the script to do? And it will do a bunch of different diagrams. It will do a host to VM, a network to VM, a data store to VM, and these are all the relationships. And it will do a host to data store, and then you can actually say how far down you want to go. So you'll see the kind of stuff that happens as we do it. And I'll get it to do a couple of diagrams. Then when we click OK, the magic begins. So it actually launches Visio for us. It'll actually start dragging and dropping the different shapes on there as we find them in our virtual infrastructure, and start adding the lines in between them, and instant documentation.
So just out of curiosity, how long did it take you to first build all this?
It took longer than it should do because the COM objects weren't documented. So PowerShell's pretty good at enabling you to kind of self-discover what's in an object. But then I had to work out what it actually meant. Looking at something on a menu item and then working out what the actual COM object for that is and how to call a method and what to pass the method and stuff like that.
Building connectors on a Visio diagram,
right?
For them to be in the right location.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and to be honest, most of my time was spent working out the maths of, if I place this here, I need to place the next one down 10 paces and to the right 10 paces, and then I need to store that in a variable so that I can use that with my next cluster and move that down there and then draw that. I guess it took I would say a couple of days.
Yeah, because some of the auto sorting stuff is difficult to figure out exactly.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate this.
Yeah.
I like other people doing it.
Right. Well, you can get your script to do Visio for you now, so. Yeah, it's very easy to use, and the end results, speak for themselves. And this is one of those scripts that normally sells people on PowerCLI. I mean, it's a free product, but this is the one where they go, oh, well, I need to learn that stuff because that's cool. And as well as Visio, I also created a Word document version as well. So it'll actually audit your environment and drop your entire environment as an audit into Word as well. Create tables for you, stuff like that. Once you work with one COM object, you quickly learn the rest. So reporting is really the first place where people start, and there's a reason why people start with that in PowerShell. If you run a get command, you're not going to trash your environment. If you run a set command, you're going to change something, right? So if you're new to PowerShell, then make sure that you always run the get commands, get used to how they work, use the pipeline along with them, and then you naturally progress into, I can use set and new and remove even.
Do you have all the what if?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And
yeah,
confirm.
and confirm as well, yes. Yeah, we're pretty good at that. And I always tell people, if you start with reporting and you're downloading reporting scripts from the internet and you see the word remove in there, you kind of know it's not a reporting script, right? It's one of those scripts that's going to be a resume generating event because you're going to remove everything that's in your environment potentially. But the next place that people start going to is provisioning, and we've gone through a few of these examples already. And you can see I've got these examples here. What I'll do is I'll save this deck as a PDF afterwards and make sure I upload it into the Meetup group so that everybody can take a look at these and run them in their own environments where they won't get a bunch of red text like I did because my test environment's shot. And we spoke about this briefly before, the in-guest operations. But really what this is exactly a way to run a script inside of a virtual machine and then pass the results back to your PowerShell session. So it enables you to take your automation that one step further and actually, once you've deployed your virtual machine and installed Windows, why not run a script inside there to configure that virtual machine as well? And the point here is you don't even need a network connection for this to work. It'll actually run through VM tools. Which is the drivers that you install when you create a virtual machine.
So does the invoke command set have the same constraints in the PowerCLI as it does in PowerShell in terms of passing variable parameters into the invoke session? So global versus localized.
Oh, the scope.
For scope for variables.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, it'll be it'll be the same kind of stuff. Yeah, obviously, if you're passing something down to the guest, you need the guest to know about it, right? So you've got to pass all the information, not just the information you know about. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Can you use using the way that PowerShell does?
How does PowerShell use
Well, when
using?
you're doing invoke command, you can do $using : and then the name of the variable, and it'll pass it along.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
That's why I was asking, is whether
Okay.
it's only in scope or whether you can actually pass in
Or like arguments.
arguments from an existing pipeline
Okay.
down into the invoke command in order to be able to get the invoke command and actually do something with an external.
Oh, right. Okay. No, you know what? I've never come across that, and I learn every day in PowerShell. Today is no different. But I would definitely look at that. I don't believe that we can do that. But guess what? It's on the list of things we're going to do now. And as I said, this isn't just Windows centric as well. So if you have Linux machines out there, you can actually run. You can see the last example there is actually running Linux bash script at the guest interface. So we just released PowerCLI 5.8 R1. Is there any questions about PowerCLI in general? Do you get a good idea of what it is now, the way it works, what we can cover, what we can do, and the kind of standard ways that we work with PowerShell?
And the invoke script component just have all the standard regex escape sequences.
Yes.
Quotes and
Yeah. It's PowerShell at the end of the day, so it's going to have that kind of stuff. Yeah. Any questions at all? Sorry, I know you came in a little bit late, so.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have you been using PowerCLI before?
I have not,
Okay.
but I would like to.
Okay, great. If you've got a card, or drop me your email, and I'll give you a book. We're out of books at the moment, but I'll send you a book.
Okay.
So what did we do in 5.8 R1? We actually did a bunch of different stuff in our latest release. We did the normal things that make people happier that are using PowerCLI. Like we did things like enhance the startup speed. It sounds simple, but we actually saw a lot of people using PowerCLI to monitor their environments. And if I run a PowerShell script that goes out and checks something and then returns results and then closes itself, then I run another PowerShell script 5 minutes later. You don't want the same one to be running because you quickly run out of memory on your machine running hundreds of PowerShell scripts. So enhancing the startup for those monitoring solutions was actually pretty good. We brought out some storage policy commandlets, and storage policies are a way for you in your VMware environment to actually define policies on your storage. So what you can say is, okay, this data store here is our fastest data store possible. It has all the latest flash devices in it. It's if you're gonna be on here, you're gonna get the highest IOPS. And then when you're creating a virtual machine, you can choose, rather than actually choosing a data store, you can choose a policy. So when you create a virtual machine, you can say, I want to create a virtual machine, and I want it using the fastest possible storage or the fastest possible host, stuff like that. Or the storage that's replicated, or the storage that's that kind of stuff. So it really does enable you to use the policies rather than actually specifying an individual data store. We have commandlets that allow you to query OVFs and OVAs. OVFs and OVAs are our standard kind of deployment mechanism for VMware software. So you might get an MSI file in a Windows environment that allows you to install software. But in VMware, what we do is we actually give you an OVA or an OVF that's our complete product. It's a complete virtual machine. And then we say to you, import this into your environment. And before, you could go to the web client and you can say, okay, I want to import a virtual machine, point it to the OVF, and then go through a wizard specifying the IP address, the host name, the administrator account, that kind of stuff, and then finish off, and it would deploy that virtual machine. And we could do that with PowerCLI, but we couldn't actually provide the parameters that went along with it. We could actually just say, deploy this, but don't set any of the parameters. So what we've done is we've actually enabled you to query the OVF. So I can say, here's my OVF. Let's take a look at it. In fact, I think I've got it. No, I don't. So if you take a look at our documentation or our blog posts that we've done on this, you'll see examples of the code. But what you can do is say, here's my OVF or my OVA. Now tell me what you expect me to set for this to be deployed. And then you can set those in variables, or you can work those out, and then you can actually send it with the OVF and OVA and deploy it. And again, this sounds like one of those small things, yeah, so what, you can deploy your own software. But when it comes to larger environments where you're setting up hundreds of sites or thousands of sites, you don't really want to be installing this stuff by hand. You want to actually have some programmatic way where you give it a number and it knows that it's site 52, so the IP range is 192.168.52, and it goes out and does all this stuff automatically for you. We added some filters by tag, so we have tagging now in our virtual infrastructure. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically a way to tag a virtual machine, a host, a network, a data store with some metadata. So it's a way for you to add metadata to your objects and work with those objects. And simple things that people do there are add owners of virtual machines, owners of hosts, cost codes, various different information you can actually add in there. You can't set permissions on tags, no. That's a good question. It's definitely something we're looking at in the future as well. Yeah, that's a good idea. And that's, obviously that's not a PowerCLI feature, that's a vSphere feature, but I know the tagging team because I've worked with them, and it's definitely something we're looking at. We did a bunch of changes like error reporting, so we just made our messages somewhat more friendly and give you the full API definition of why your commandlet failed, as you saw before. That was my demo of how our commandlets fail and our enhanced error reporting.
Excellent. Really feel like I learned.
Yes. We have this concept of something called a related object as well. So what you can actually do is you can do a get hard disk and get the related object, and it will bring back something like a data store, or it'll actually say, okay, this hard disk is actually related to this this data store, and this is where it's stored. What else? We added support for our latest vCloud Air APIs. So again, it's one of those small things which we'll benefit from in the future as we abstract our commandlets even more. But the key thing you should take away from that is that basically, if it's in vCloud Air, you should be able to automate it with PowerCLI.
Now, were any of the features driven by what Chef or Puppet one had of you? From I imagine, because I would imagine the OBF OVA stuff would be stuff that they would very much want in terms of capabilities for being able to deploy it.
They weren't driven by them, but certainly they can take advantage of them.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Puppet does a great job of working with different types of files and distributing packages. So we could very easily write a module that would allow you to take advantage of those commandlets to deploy our software. Absolutely. Okay. Next. So on the advanced scripting side of things, I've talked about how you use PowerCLI, but what can we actually do with it? I showed you the diagramming tool, but this is actually this is a script that was written initially by me and some other people that I worked with, and this was one of those things where, as I said, you go into your environment every day, you try and look at the problems that might be caused in your environment, what's going to bite you on the ass that day, what do I need to look out for, and this script was really all of those things that we used to check in our environment on a day-to-day basis. Do I have any data stores that are running out of space? Do I have any snapshots that are over 30 days old? Do I have, who's created my virtual machines and when did they create them? Because, we were kind of precious about that, and only certain people could create virtual machines. But a lot of people obviously had admin rights politically. So, did they create them in the right way? What errors are in my logs? What do I need to be aware of? And this script was written for that need. And when I started it, we probably had like 20 things it went out there and checked. And what we do is we enable people to write these checking things as plugins. So you just drop a PS1 file in the plugins folder, and it will run that next time. It will put it in this nice HTML format you see right here, and then it'll actually email you the report. So this is the kind of thing we used to set up as a scheduled task at 8 o'clock in the morning, go away, check my environment, and then come back and tell me about what's going to cause me problems. And then by the time I got to work, I'd have a nice email in my inbox that said, okay, this is the stuff that's going to cause you problems. And if there's somebody waiting at my desk, I've already checked the email on my phone and I know why they're there. And we opened this up to the community, and now it has something like 114 or that many checks in it. And it's been adapted as well. The framework I wrote in such a way that it isn't reliant on PowerCLI, it's reliant on PowerShell. So if you have an environment that you can manipulate with PowerShell, you can use this script. You drop a PS1 file in there and it will run that and include it. So you now, if you have an Exchange environment, there's an Exchange version of this script. If you have Active Directory, there's an Active Directory version, there's a Citrix version, there's a SharePoint version, there's a vCloud Air version. So you can basically go out and run these scripts against your environment and it will bring back useful information. And you can write plugins, and you can even feed those plugins back in as well because it's on GitHub. One of the other advanced scripts I like to show as well is the one that actually goes out there and checks your hardware and comes back with the actual name of what your hardware is and the firmware version sometimes as well. So, you know, we release a hardware compatibility list whenever we release a new version of ESX, but it's not always easy to know what type of array controller you have in your ESX host or what type of network card you have in there. So this actually goes out there and queries your environment and then will spit back the information so that you can take that and reference the HCL and make sure that when you update the latest version, you're compatible with what VMware recommends. So earlier on I spoke about low-level and high-level commandlets, and we spoke about, you know, making them look nice. And when I talk about high-level commandlets, this is what I've been talking about so far. So kind of all the, you know, get VM, I know what that does, that gets me a list of VMs. Get the resource configuration, okay, I know what that does. Set the resource configuration, I know what that does. Well, the example above does exactly the same thing that the example below does, but it's not as easy to read, right? This is really our .NET or our object way of working, or our view way of working with our API. So the benefits of using low level is that you can do anything, right? If we haven't had the time to write a high level commandlet for some obscure setting that you need to do, that, you know, 99% of our users haven't asked us for, or, you know, 99% of our users never do, so we haven't taken the time to implement that, then really you can use the low level and you can go out and you can create your own functions that look like commandlets and wrap this kind of stuff into those functions and produce sample scripts. Or you can go to the communities and ask Luke how to do it, and he'll write it for you. But you can see, you know, this gives us the best of both worlds, really, because when people say to me, can I do X in vCenter? I'm like, sure you can. You know, and that might be the high-level way or it might be the low-level way, but you can do it, definitely. And that also brings me nicely onto our Site Recovery Manager commandlets. And, you know, we spoke a little bit about Site Recovery Manager and being able to move your virtual machines automatically to another site and recover them. Well, we have commandlets that allow you to do that as well. But we have low-level commandlets that allow you to do that in the current version. So this is an example of how we would use those. We would actually connect to our SRM server. When you do that, we create a variable for you, a connection variable, global default SRM servers. And then you can see if I run that variable, it's got the information for my SRM server in there. And then I can call properties and methods on there to actually invoke those different parts of the software.
So you can walk through dot extension.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. So an extension data is the way that we access those methods and properties. So you can see that we would have an authentication under there, and we can call a bunch of different methods to log on, for example, or to retrieve the content. And then we have a property called protection. If you put a dot list protection group, you'll obviously get a list of the protection groups that are in SRM. You'll get a list of the inventory mappings. It's not as hard as it first looks if you walk through it in a logical way. And again, you know, it's the low-level commandlets, so it's harder to write. But it's one of those things that we like to get out there straight away, so that our advanced users can start writing functions, can start using, and then we'll go back when we see what people want to do.
So for pulling them up for displaying them, or are you actually doing the dot tab Or do you actually have to pipe down and then get dash help?
No, it's a tab complete. Yeah.
And I guess you can't pipe it to GM because
Yeah, you can.
you can.
Yeah, you can pipe the object to get member, and it will give you a list of the methods and properties. Absolutely.
Okay. So
Yes.
that would probably be the easier way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're walking through this right now, and obviously to get this list, I did a get member to get these list of things. This is just me explaining it. Yeah. And, all this stuff is found in our developer's guide for SRM. So if you want to automate SRM, you can. It's just a little bit harder than it needs to be at the moment.
And do you guys publish out a roadmap of what you're going to be building on a high-level basis so that people know where it's going, or?
No, you know what, we don't.
It's just expected that later someone will, as this command set comes out, you're going to convert over to that.
It's expected that we are very community facing, and that if you are in the community and you want something and you ask for it, or if we are monitoring the communities and we see a lot of different questions about certain areas, then they're generally the way that we will look at things. Obviously I've got not an infinite amount of developers that work creating PowerCLI commandlets, and I've got probably an infinite amount of stuff that I want to do. So there is some prioritization that goes into that.
Right. But it's interesting seeing the different approaches, because like Cisco's doing with UCS.
Right.
It's like, it's pretty cool how they're just generating.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yes.
That's
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah.
The API is just boom, and it just generates the PowerShell.
Right.
Use the convert to command. Here's the PowerShell that it actually does. That's
the way they do it is super cool. Yeah, generating their commandlets from their API and giving you those on build is a fantastic way to do it. And I wish we had the ability to do that. Yeah. As it stands at the moment, we don't have that ability.
Is that a goal or something that you guys are looking at trying to do?
It's something we're looking at. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, because that would be really amazing, especially for you guys, because that just means instantly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They write that in the guide. Okay, well, PowerCLI is already there.
But the benefit of yes and no. So yes, that's great, but you don't really want your commandlets being a one-to-one for your API, because a lot of the abstraction you want to do, like around a new VM, new VM doesn't just call one API to create a virtual machine. It does a bunch of different API calls, right, to create the disk, to create the network card, to do all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the abstraction you want is still probably a lot of manual thought and a lot of working out how we make the workflow easier, rather than just doing a one-for-one mapping of our API. You can see what happens if we do a one-to-one mapping of our API right there. That's not friendly.
But it does allow automatically across the board that anyone. And I would agree with you. That's absolutely true. But then you guys get to pick and choose your own templates.
We do, yeah. The ideal world is obviously we automatically generate 80% of it, and we go back in and put the finishing touches and the polish and make it look nice and work the right way.
Right.
So that's the ideal world.
Ideal world is not necessarily what everyone has the luxury to pay for.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I said, I have to weigh up what we do and how we do it, because
are all the teams in VMware sort of on board with what you're trying to accomplish and really realizing that there's huge value in the community?
VMware definitely sees the value in the community. From the PowerShell community, they see the value in our PowerCLI command. That's 100%. They've seen how quickly and how easily people have adopted PowerCLI, and some of the weird and wonderful things they've done with it that have led our products in different directions. So it's definitely a valuable product.
It's pretty neat what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you. So, just talking about the SRM commandlets, you can see here's an example of where I'm actually creating, what I would call a wrapper around the kind of extension data and the bits that I showed you before. And what this is doing is actually listing the protection groups. So at the end, it gives me a list of the VMs and the protection group therein. But you can see how we have to actually form that ourselves rather than have a get protection group.
You could write that as a function.
You could write that as a function, absolutely. And so people have done that, and there's a bunch of There's a GitHub project that's got some examples for SRM where people have actually done this and put these examples in there so that you don't have to do this work. Again, this is our easy way to give everybody access to the full API and allow the advanced users to help the non-advanced users out and give them that information, whilst at the same time we can look at what people want to automate and what they want to view and what they want to do, so that we can go back and formalize it.
Right, you can almost look at what the community's contributed out and say, oh, well, that's clearly the interest. Is there something?
Exactly right. So when we talk about PowerCLI and launching scripts, a lot of these will be familiar with you because you use them to launch your PowerShell scripts. And we can do the same things. Obviously, you can use the PowerShell console. We've got various different script editors out there that work with PowerShell. PowerGUI is the one that I recommend because although the ISE is catching up, it just still doesn't have some of that functionality. Every time, like every couple of months, I'll go, right, I'm going to use the ISE now. And then I'll go, this is so hard. I need to go back to PowerGUI. I missed the variables.
I got pissed off at PowerGUI because it was taking over all of the file associations and I couldn't undo it. And so I just...
Have you plugged anything with the Sapien tools?
Yes. I actually bought Primal Forms because I love Primal Forms. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Being able to add a GUI, a user interface, back on top of your PowerShell scripts. Because not everybody wants to run a script, So being able to pass your scripts off to somebody, a junior admin that has a GUI, and then just types in information, clicks go, and it does a bunch of PowerShell magic underneath. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a developer, but I feel like a developer when I use that.
They just didn't have a good set of tools.
Yeah.
Some of the Visual Studio integrations, we've had some bugginess with getting to work with Visual Studio Online, but other than that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We also obviously allow you to work with scheduled tasks and schedule your PowerCLI scripts as scheduled tasks. We have. Does everybody know what vCenter Orchestrator is?
I've heard of it, but I don't
really
know what it is.
Do you have vCenter installed? So you have VCO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I using it right now?
You're probably not. No. If you don't know, you're not. So.
We have a VMware admin who may well be.
He could be, yeah. So VCO is our way for, it's more of a workflow-based environment. So it's a drag and drop the different workflows and relate them together to actually achieve something. But it's got some nice features in there. But that in turn has a PowerShell plugin. So you can actually say, do this, do this, do this, and then go run that PowerShell script. And when you've done that, do this. So it's a good way to orchestrate the VMware environment and some of our other products. And vCenter alarms as well. That's an interesting one. So we have vCenter alarms. If a virtual machine is running high on memory, you'll get an alarm. If a data store is about to run out of space, you'll get an alarm. So for each of these alarms, what you can do is actually, rather than say email me or send an SNMP trap, you can say run this PowerShell script. So if you are running low on data store space and you get an alarm that says, hey, I'm running low on data store space, you could actually run a script that moved a certain amount of virtual machines to another data store, storage vmotion them to another data store and allow them to keep running and you don't run out of space.
So with the alarms, you're getting objects in a pipeline that you can then do something against, or how's that?
Yeah, what happens is you actually get variables, environmental variables, passed in as part of the script. Okay. So obviously you can take those environmental variables in your script and then relate those back to PowerShell objects and manipulate them and do whatever you want with them.
So part of the declarative in the alarm is what alarm type it is.
Yes. What VM, what caused the alarm, exactly.
So you just have to look through that to actually match. So you set something up in a scheduler to actually, or is the alarm itself trigger a initializing?
The alarm itself would trigger a PS1 file.
PS1 file. Yeah. That PS1 file then you use to sort through the alarm state conditions. Yeah.
And when it launches the PS1 file, it'll actually pass in the environmental variables with it. So automatically
you've got. Or can you actually build it out as families and saying if the alarms of this type start this PS1 file, or is it?
Yeah, no, absolutely, you can do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
And so one of the things I've seen people do there is security hardening of their virtual machines. So we have a great security hardening guide that many of our banks and government contracts follow. And as they create a virtual machine, they'll change a bunch of entries. They'll make sure it's security hardened. Well, you always get that person that thinks they know how to security harden a virtual machine and then misses an entry and then causes a problem. Well, what I've seen done is actually an alarm set up so that every time a virtual machine is created, it actually calls a script that goes out and hardens that virtual machine straight away. So you kind of take that manual step out of it and make sure that it's always automated and always implemented. And I'm not sure how I'm doing for time because I've been rabbiting away. Oh, I'm doing good. Okay.
Yeah, that close. No, that's a good change, yes.
Just wait till spring.
So the other demo that I wanted to show you was something pretty cool we did recently. And I need to restart my RDP session again. So we created, at VMware, we have this thing called, we have this thing called VMware Flings. Now, a fling is basically, yeah, exactly. It's not how it sounds. It's basically a way for our engineers to work on projects that are interesting to them, to still innovate, to spend their spare time just really messing around, producing something useful, and then being able to give that back to the community. So creating tools that are useful for users to use, and then giving them back freely to the community without support. And one of the flings that we've created is the fling that I'm about to show you now. So I'm running my vSphere web client here. I'm running it on a Windows box, sure, but I could be running it on a Mac, or I could be running it in any browser that supports our web client. And what we've got here, I mean, the people that are used to managing VMware environments will be used to this kind of web interface. And what you can do is, manage your environment, but you won't be used to these two icons here. What we've got is actually a PowerCLI console. So if I click on that, I've instantly got access to PowerCLI. Nice. Yeah, in my web interface. And you notice I didn't run a Connect VI server. This is going to run super slow because it's on there. Because it knows who I'm logged into the web client as. It's actually taken my credentials, used those to log me into PowerCLI. So I'm already connected to the virtual centers that I'm connected to, and I can run my commands and get the results back and use it as I would do a normal PowerShell window. So I can do a get and I can hit tab and it'll actually bring back the results. This environment takes a couple of minutes to get going. But you can see the kind of things. Yeah, I mean, straight away, right? You've got you've got access to PowerShell and you've got access to PowerCLI, and you've also got access to any other snap-ins or modules that are installed on this box. So the way it works is you download an MSI file from us. You install it on a Windows box that has PowerShell on it. We then install our own PowerShell host on there, and we allow the web, and then we register this plugin into the web client, and we basically proxy the work that goes on through the web client back to that machine, run the commands, and then return the results to you.
So is this leveraging PS Remoting?
No, it's not. We run our own PowerShell host.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
have to have a parallel Windows server.
You do have to have a Windows server, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's generally that box that we spoke about earlier that you use for scripting.
But it's not recommended to install this when you're actually running your vCenter.
I wouldn't know. I mean, I never install PowerShell or PowerCLI on that box because if you run a script that does a lot of compute, that churns a lot of virtual machines. If you've got thousands of virtual machines and you're finding a certain property and doing stuff, you're taken away from the actual management application, right? So, yeah, generally this is a separate box in your environment. It could be a virtual machine. It is in my environment. Why not set up a Windows virtual machine and then use that to manage it?
So this is a little crazy because technically you could stick this in the DMZ and use remoting to actually drive connections against this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's
This is really
there's tons of stuff you could do against this, and this isn't even the cool bit. So the other bit that you can see here is PowerCLI scripts. If I click on that, you can see that we've actually got a list of, when it comes up, a list of scripts that we can use in our environment, and these are scripts that I've written myself. So this is one that I've written that's basically says, okay, give me a list of the snapshots that are over 30 days old. So I can easily create another script here. I can click the plus button. I can say, okay, what's my target type? And this will come in, actually, I'll show you this a different way. What we can do is we can go to our normal view of our virtual machines and hosts. We can right-click on a host, and we can go to the PowerCLI action, and we can go create me a script. And now what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, I'm going to use a host as an input to this script. And I'm going to do a get VM, or, I'm going to list the VMs on this host. This is a very simple example. It's going to be a report script. I'm going to click next. It gives me a template of the things that I use, and this is basically the metadata that we use. Although it's basically a PowerShell script that allows me to specify parameters. You can see it's automatically put the VM host in there, so it knows it's retrieving a host object, and it's setting up a vparam variable where it's storing that host object. So what I can do is I can actually use that, and I can say, okay, get me the VMs for the location of $vparam, and remember that's going to be my host. Now I can click next, and I can click finish, and that's created my script for me. So now what I can do is next time I click on here, I can right click, I can go PowerCLI, I can go execute script, and I can choose the script that I wrote, and I can click OK, and it'll actually run PowerShell, it'll run the script that we just wrote, and it'll return the results straight in the web client.
Can you get it out of here?
Yeah, you can do anything you can do in PowerShell. Right. Absolutely.
So if you export to CSV or.
Yep. Yeah, you can still do that. Yep. You can use it as it's PowerShell. The nice thing we do here is obviously integrate it back into the web client to give people that centralized view.
So will the web client actually display the XML if you did export XML, or just dump the XML there?
No, it would dump the XML on the box, and you'd actually have to read that somehow. Okay. Yeah, is that what you meant?
Yeah. Any and all.
Well.
Where do the scripts reside?
They reside. So they actually get stored in our lookup service. So they get stored in our vSphere environment for each of the users. So if I log in, I've got my scripts. If somebody else logs in, they've got their scripts, right?
That are universal. If you wanted to create something for a bunch of, let's say, Mac users who are going in and doing.
I'm so good at preempting questions. So the other cool thing we can do is if we go to PowerCLI scripts, you see we're on my scripts at the moment. What you can do is you can go to shared scripts, and guess what this is? Some scripts that somebody has written and stored on my PowerShell host.
And where do you stick them? I mean, if you
on the PowerShell host.
Right. So in it, you define the folder that you're looking at.
Yeah, we have a specific folder. Drop all your PS1 files in there with the right metadata, and we'll pull them in and run them for you.
This could be a huge thing.
Right. And yeah, and I agree with you. And the reason I agree with you is because, not only can I store my company's scripts in there, if I've got an advanced admin that is writing all my PowerShell scripts and other people that don't really want to use PowerCLI, I can instantly give them right-click ability in the web client and say, I don't care if you want to use it. You still get the greatness that we provide you. What we can also do, and what I've done as well, is written a script called download GitHub scripts.
Yeah.
So what that does is goes out to GitHub to a private repository that I have, downloads all the scripts in that repository, and automatically puts them in that shared folder, restarts the service, and now when I go to my environment,
So you can just put them in GitHub and you know that they're going to get here.
Yeah. So now if I right-click on my environment, I can go to my PowerCLI window, I can go execute script, and I've got a bunch of scripts in there which I didn't even write, that the community's written, and I know it's cool stuff. Obviously you would check them, you would make sure that they're secure, that there's no remove VM in there. But the point is, you have scripts that have been written by people that are managing the same system that you're managing, right?
Did you get this different view because you had already changed the context to the shared scripts in the previous
No,
thing?
you will get those by
You
default.
didn't see this before.
Because I right-clicked on a host, so it only gave me the host-related scripts. Now I right-clicked on a cluster. Now it's giving me the scripts that work with the cluster. So I can instantly see my snapshots that are over 30 days old. I can security harden all the virtual machines. If VMware release a KB article, I can see, perhaps in the future we might release a script that says, here's how you fix this particular issue. Now here's the script. Just sync your repository. It will download it, and you can run that in your environment. It gives us the ability to basically help you fix your environment.
Can you control who has the ability to put scripts on here? For instance, you may have a junior admin that you don't want them going into a shared script repository and being able to run scripts against your environment.
Yeah, you would control that in the same way that you control a folder. I mean, the scripts are in a folder on a PowerShell host. So you would just restrict that folder using Windows permissions. Yeah, or don't give him admin rights to log onto that box, or the share rights to look at that share, right?
So it's not something like within the console that you can do role-based access?
Yeah, we don't have role-based access against this plugin at the moment. It's definitely something that people have asked.
Just file-based access, right?
Yeah.
Can you access your read file?
Right.
You don't have access rights to do it. We want to slave from.
Yeah, I mean, certain people want to take it one step further as well and say, okay, well, these users have access to these scripts, these users have access to these other scripts, and it could start getting.
They want the regular role-based controls.
Yeah.
Now, does it replicate automatically? So within one virtual center environment, you're running for backup DR purposes, is it going to automatically replicate those, or do you have to go in?
We don't do that. Again, it's a Windows file share. You can replicate the scripts to another server.
So just replicate the file share.
Absolutely. And the other one that I put in here as an example as well is one that Luke created directly after the shell shock vulnerability. You remember when that came out and everybody was scrabbling to check their environments to make sure they're not compromised via Linux, the shell shock vulnerability. Well, Luke went out and wrote a script, just a PowerShell script that goes out and checks all your virtual machines. Using the invoke script, goes inside the virtual machine, checks for the vulnerability, and then comes back out and says, okay, these are the ones that are going to be affected that you need to patch or work with. So I just adapted that, very easy to adapt. Took that and put it in here. So now when I right-click on my cluster, it'll ask me for a Linux username and password for my Linux machines. Don't look at my password, it's super secure. And when I hit OK, it'll actually go out to my virtual infrastructure. It will go into each one of my Linux virtual machines. It will check for the vulnerabilities, and then it will come back and give me the report of the machines that are doing this.
So if you're a hosting provider and you're running a multi-tenant configuration where you won't necessarily have access to those underlines, is there any invoke commands to be able to pull abstract data or any sort of metadata out of it?
No. If you don't have access to the machine, I mean, it's not your machine, right? Yeah.
There's ways to make things sort of leaky, just like in container environments, right? You can make.
Oh, sure, but no, we're not a leaky company. If we're going to host somebody's virtual machines for them, we want them to be secure and we want them to have the confidence that nobody else can access them, not even VMware. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see it's run it on my virtual machines and it's come back and it's told me that I've actually got 2 machines that are vulnerable to that security issue. You can see how this is very easily adaptable, and you can basically, if you've got something in mind that you want to do, you can add it straight in here and give people access to that straight away. Like I said, this is a fling at the moment, so it's not supported by VMware, but it's something that we've kind of thrown out there to get some early access to, give people an idea of what we're thinking, and get some comments back on. So if it's the kind of thing that you would use or you would like to use and you would like it to be supported, then definitely let me know.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Should we email you to get
Please.
access to it?
No.
Is it
You
available
can,
for
you can go
download?
to just Google VMware things and you'll find Power Actions, or Google Power Actions, or read my blog.
I do every day. How often do you write it?
Every month, maybe 2 months now. PM, I don't have time. Sorry. So I put a bunch of different links in there. You know, the best one is Google PowerCLI. Google's great. But there's a bunch of different resources in there, from the community to our own blog to Luke's blog, fantastic blog, my blog, our documentation, and others. There's some books, one of which I've given away today. You know, drop me a card or your details, and I'll send you one over. But the Learning PowerCLI book is the latest book that's out there at the moment. It's a great way for you to get started. I was a co-author on the VMware vSphere PowerCLI reference, and that's more of a reference book that has a lot of sample scripts in there for the kind of everyday work that we used to do and the functions that we do, and we kind of go into more detail and explain how to use those and how we wrote those as well. So it's for the more advanced user. There is a getting started section in there, but it's not a book dedicated to getting started. And there's a future book coming out as well on specifically performance reporting with PowerCLI, written by Luke.
And Chris Wall's book also has some stuff too.
Yeah. This is still my favorite quote from anybody that's used PowerCLI. If I ever manage to find a girlfriend, I'll have tons of time to spend with her thanks to PowerCLI.
Unless she's a sysadmin.
Yeah, yes. That says so much about the person that's using PowerCLI and also about the product
Nerds
itself.
in general.
Yes.
That's fine.
You know, I put my email address on there. Please do email me. I won't be available to write scripts for you if that's what you're emailing me for. I will, however, be available to, you know, help you out with getting your features or your requests turned into a product. So if you have problems with our help or comments on our help, if you have things that annoy you when you use PowerCLI, if you have something you can't automate at the moment and you would like to, drop me an email, please do. Even if you think I've heard it before, because you know what, if I've heard it before, it goes up in my priority list. So it gets done quicker.
So in January 2013, you responded to a blog post that it was very high priority to change from snap-ins to modules.
I did.
How's that coming?
Pretty good, thanks.
Because we won't have to
We're on
import
it.
anymore.
You know, the thing I didn't say on that comment was how many high priorities I had. Everything's a high priority. No, I'm definitely looking at modules. It's loud and clear. It's been heard by the community that we need modules. It's just not one of those things that's an overnight job that I can just click my fingers and it's done. You know, if I came out with a release that basically said, okay, you've got modules but nothing else, no new features, no products covered, no bug fixes, no anything, I don't think anybody would be happy with me. So, you know, being able to put that in our roadmap and work on it in sections and actually bring it out when it's done properly, tested, configured, and making sure that we do the right implementation is more important to me than being able to drag and drop a file.
So is that the opportunity to maybe look at the differential namespace with an alias and start thinking at that time that you can support it in both ways? Because I mean that should be easier in a module when you're thinking about structurally.
Well, we still have a backwards compatibility.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying
to our current users that use our scripts. Whatever I do, I don't want to break the people that use these scripts.
Oh no, absolutely not. What I'm saying is you go forward with a module.
Yeah.
Then you can say, well, we have a new construct for language about how you're going to adopt this, and then we'll build an alias for you automatically. But do realize if you want to be conformant, all our examples are going to be full length. New naming sequence. So when you start using our example stuff that we post out to community to consume it, we're going to use the newer naming extensions that are sort of standardized now around PowerShell for being able to do that, and we'll build an alias to be able to support you for backward compatibility reasons. But
it's not a bad idea.
do realize that at a certain date going forward, we're going to tell you
we're
Well,
cutting
it's
it.
been
Yeah.
long enough. You should
Right.
have gotten onto the new
Yeah,
stuff.
And there's obviously ways that
Eventually,
we.
you'll deprecate those
Right.
older ones, right? So
Right.
it may take a while, but eventually you'll catch up and
Yeah.
clean all those old scripts would then be cleaned out with the
Sure.
new references.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. I'm in Bulgaria next week with the PowerCLI team, so it's a topic I can bring up, and we can think about what that would mean to our customers and how that would go down and how we prioritize that. It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
And there was something Eric wanted to mention, but I can't remember what the heck it was.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
If I want to use PowerCLI in PowerGUI,
Yes.
what should I do?
You just basically install PowerGUI, and then on the file menu, there's a snap-ins. You go to the snap-ins, and then you put the tick box in anything that says VMware, and then it'll automatically load the snap-ins every time you start PowerGUI.
Install.
You have to install PowerCLI. Yeah, good point. I missed that one. So install PowerCLI,
Okay.
then install PowerGUI, and then select the snap-ins. Yeah. And it'll add those in there for you, and you'll get all the nice kind of color coding and tab completion and help and all that kind of stuff that comes with PowerGUI.
I have a couple of questions. One
Yes.
is not PowerCLI at all, but the web client, I
Yeah.
was dragged kicking and screaming into using it, and I'm now quite comfortable in there.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering whether there is anything I'm missing about auto refresh in the view.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
Something
it's a
that you can
little
set to, because I
Right.
sometimes forget to click on the little circle.
right.
It's not
Yeah.
done. It's not, oh, it's done.
No, I think that's the main thing that I miss as well. That instant view of what's
Yeah.
going on. If I create a VM, it's there, right, happening right now.
Mhm.
Whereas in the web client, it's obviously more of a distributed model, and we're working, with we're trying to make it scale better than the C# client.
No, I mean,
So,
it's definitely
um,
easier for people not to have to install this fat thing, and we've got users on multiple platforms. And it's
Yes.
just easier.
No, I can certainly tell you that it's something that we're aware of, and you'll see enhancements in future versions.
Trying to get away from that. The reality is, performance-wise, the client is.
Yeah.
There was a reason you got the performance out of
Yeah.
it, right?
Right.
Because of the underlying.NET
Yeah.
hooks for. There's a reason to perform the way it did.
Mhm.
So.
I also have another question, not PowerCLI.
Yeah.
We recently, and my colleague is more of the VMware dude, changed over from using the Windows vCenter to the appliance.
Uh-huh.
Can you have more than one and replicate them? Because we've got one in one data center right now, and if the link is down, which shouldn't happen, but as we know, sometimes does,
Uh-huh.
we can't get in and do anything. I mean, the VMs are still up and happy in all the locations, but
Right.
is there any way to have a replicated management without using the Windows?
You mean linked mode? Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe. I
'Cause
don't.
the
I
VC
didn't. I didn't
think
set it up, but
I think you're talking about linked mode. The virtual appliance VCBA doesn't support linked mode.
so if you would have to have one in each location, then if you wanted to.
Yes. Yeah. Again, it's something we've heard and something we are
Okay.
working towards.
It's,
I
it's
can
hardly ever an
promise you.
issue, except when it is, and then,
Yeah, of
then things
course.
are on fire and people are just coming.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons we're doing that kind of stuff, and reasons why we're starting to break out the different services, and that is obviously to make our products more scalable and more resilient as
We
well.
like the appliance
So,
better. I mean, it's definitely
yeah.
been a lot
Oh,
more
yeah.
robust.
Yeah, it's so much easier to manage as well.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I have more questions, but if other people have some, I don't want to talk.
We have a public beta as well, so if you haven't checked out the public beta, then go sign up for that, because I think that'll answer both the questions that you just asked me.
So sorry, I'm going to keep talking unless somebody throws a shoe at me. Can PowerCLI, I think I looked into this before and couldn't find anything for getting and setting folders. Is that
Yep.
one of the parameters that you can set with you? Go to VM, can you assign it to a folder?
Yes, definitely.
I
You
will
set
I will
the.
Google, don't worry about it.
Let's take a look while you're talking. Ask me some more
All right,
questions.
well, the other one I have is sort of PowerCLI and sort of Windows. I can get my Windows server disks very easily with WMI,
Yes.
and I can get my.
I know what you're
Yeah,
going to. I
yeah,
know
you
what
do.
you're
Yeah,
gonna
you
say.
know.
I know what you're going to say.
I am having a hell of a time figuring out how to get something that will tell me, because I built a VM and then I want to assign labels. I want to format with 64K instead of whatever on certain volumes. How the hell do I figure out without going in and looking at the line
Which disk is on
information?
which data store, on which data store, on which
Yeah,
line.
I mean, like the numbering obviously is different. So I've
Right.
got disk 0, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Has anybody solved this?
Yes. There's a book that I co-authored in which we wrote a function that basically does that. So it does the mappings
I found
between.
them on the web and they do not
Yeah.
work for
No.
me, but I will happily.
So I think Arnim actually. Yeah. So I mean, it's in this book here, but Arnim, I think.
Yeah, I found his function and it didn't work.
Oh, it didn't. Okay.
I forgot, but it barked on it. I mean, it didn't give me any output.
That's the best thing that exists at the moment, but you can tell I've heard that before.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I found
it's on our
a
list.
lot of people asking the question.
Right. It's definitely on our list of things to look at, and it's pretty high up, to be honest with you. So we would be looking at stuff to make that easier. And I think we.
What's the name of the book again?
Which one?
When you've been with that you co-authored.
Oh, if you go to PowerCLIbook.com, you will find it.
All right.
I'm pretty sure you can define a yeah, there you go, location, my folder one.
Ah, I wasn't thinking of location.
Yeah, and you can do you can do a get folder in there as
Yeah.
well and specify the folder.
Cool.
So when you do a new VM, it will just put those straight into the folder.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I think I was going to kill the streaming portion of it, so wrap up that part.
And I
Okay.
can show us the point.
Yeah, no problem.